Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, are my co-hosts. First, we'll start with Tyler, since he's the longest serving co-host. What's up, Tyler? How you doing tonight?
Clearly, yeah, awesome. Good to see everybody. Good to be here.
Good to see you, sir. Also joining us, that's right, he's back. He's back in his actual location, which may change intermittently in the future weeks as he perhaps integrates himself back into the show in some way or another. We'll see. It's Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends. Sorry, I missed last week. I'm back. I miss a show every once in a while. I apologize. I'm here. It'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Hit like if you're happy that Tom's back. Hit like if you're not happy that Tom's back. Just hit the like button. That's great. That's either way. We know and we appreciate it. All right. So we're going to talk about hidden gems in AoS 3.0 tonight. Those units, combos, items, whatever, that maybe in 2.0 they were underwhelming, but now in 3.0 they deserve a second look. But first, of course, as always, the news. So, Tyler, you're still on news duty. What's up?
I'm still up. All right. Rumor engine for seemingly the eighth week in a row. It's a probably 40K thing.
It is. Yep, there it is. It's a
We're
40K thing.
thinking it is what are the Oathbreakers? The Warden, Chaos Warden coming back.
Chorfs.
Or
No,
not?
it's a 40K thing. It's the 40K
Yep.
Chaos resculpt that we've been seeing a lot of images of lately. That's been rumored for years and years, and
The
seems like it's
tentacles, the
finally
tentacles spoil it.
yeah.
Like, yes, like the little pipes are coming off the back. That's 40K, folks. Sorry, not Chaos Dwarves. It's not Hashit. He's hiding in. He's hiding with the elves up in Haish.
He's dead
That's not
because
him.
that's not a thing, and he doesn't exist, and that's fine.
No, it's totally a thing.
All right.
Path to Glory, which I have zero interest in, but you added it, so take it away, Vince.
I did. I added it. It's not like I have a great interest in it either. It's this thing that's annoyingly in my rule books in between what I want to read, but I know a lot of people love it, and that's fine. I'm not going to yuck their yum.
Sorry, Sam. I'm sure you do. I know you do amazing work with it, but yeah.
Yeah. It's
Sorry.
not that is not a judgment of Path to Glory. New Path to Glory seems like it's awesome. It's a judgment of my interests. But at any rate, they put out some nice articles this week for the upcoming Stormcast and Orc release, where they went through some cool stuff that they're going to have in the books, including within Path to Glory the ability to make your own Stormcast chamber.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool stuff, right? So you can have like your own chamber founded for your Path to Glory. Pretty cool. I sincerely doubt those rules will make it into matched play. I'm sure a bunch of people read that and were like, yay! Finally! I highly doubt that's a match play rule. It was in a Path to Glory article that was all about Path to Glory. So
They're still making these rules. They're
it's,
still printing Path to Glory.
a lot of people love it, Tom. A lot of people
I
love
know.
it. Like,
I know.
a lot. A big,
A lot
very
of
big
people
number.
love the Transformers movies too.
I mean, look, Bumblebee was good, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Yeah,
Bumblebee was good.
it was good.
That's a good. I like you.
It
on
was.
Unfortunately, it came after a bunch of movies that everybody hated, so nobody went to see it, which was very sad. But
Yeah.
it was great.
Understand.
True.
All right, we finally got there. Battle tomes are on the way. Stormcast, Orc War Clans be on pre-order this weekend. Getting all the usual goodies, scroll cards, dice, including fancy Grand Alliance dice. That's a nice touch. Got the Night Judicator with basically it's the Gryph-hound release. We got Night Judicator with its Gryph-hound, Stormstrike Chariots with their Gryph-hounds.
Yes.
Like we were probably missing a Gryph-hound in there somewhere. That's supposed to be on the way. A weird Masters of the Sacrosanct, the Lord Arcanum Gryph Charger, and one Evocator Prime getting released together.
That
Okay.
poor guy.
Sure.
I have so many of him. I have like all the everything of him.
Uh,
I mean,
think he's
there is obviously one question. I didn't like. I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff, as everybody hopefully noticed. I made a new overlay for the show going forward, and like I'm trying to do some stuff to spruce up around the house here, as it were. And one of the things I really wanted to do, but just ran out of time on, was to figure out how to integrate like pop-up GIFs where I can hit a button and pop a GIF up, because I would be popping up the "Where are my dragons" GIF right now.
Yep.
Because
You're gonna have to hold up a sign, Vince.
I'm gonna
Where
have
are
to
my
head there and
dragons?
hold up a sign. That's the only option. Yep, it's gonna be holding up a sign. But at any rate, so we're getting wave 1 of these 2 releases.
Yep.
So that's fine. I'm interested in the Knight Judicator and what he does. I'm interested in the. I'm interested in everything but the chariot, actually. So that's fine.
Does the chariot do anything for you? The aesthetic?
I mean, it's bold that they're going back to chariots after, what, 4 years away from releasing any? I don't understand, like, let me start again. I like Griffhounds.
Sure.
And this is, I think, the way that they could be like, let's put Griffhounds on the table without actually making that unit good.
Sure.
And they're like, let's do a chariot with them. Yeah, that's a great idea. Now people get to paint Griffhounds. I don't know, like, I just seeing the ones with the new, like, Knight Judicator model that was badly photoshopped. Like, they're in Griffhound mania, and I see that, and I'm just like, can we just make the actual unit good? Can we actually just play with our toys?
Hey, the new Griffhounds have a much stronger Bork now. So
I know, but they're just not priced right.
Yeah, well, at any rate, we'll get the uninteresting chariot, and then eventually we will get our dragons. We'll see when.
Indeed, yep. And yeah, we're getting the Break a Boss on Mirebrute Troggoth and the Beast Skewer Killboy. So that big old tree ballista. I'm excited to see that. Hopefully, well, no later than Saturday, we'll start seeing our leaks all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have the full rules by at worst this Saturday, right? Because man who reads book will read book. And,
Some things never change,
some
and
things
apparently
will never
man
change.
reads book is one of those.
That is indeed. So we'll see.
So they were with a preview on Sunday. They showed the full photo of Bastian Carthalos, aka Lord Commander Badass, who is in fact a badass. Points depending.
Sure.
So folks,
Always.
get a load of this guy.
Always points depending.
Yeah. 6-inch move, 8 wounds, 10 bravery, 3 up save. Solid. Uskovar, or however you say that, the Sunderer, that enormous hammer, 4 attacks, 3s, 2s, -2 rend, and the beautiful 4 damage.
Yeah, 4 damage on his hammer. Take that, Gargants.
Right?
Okay. Poor giants.
And,
Yeah.
Aw. Now I'm just sad
Yeah.
for those big
Yeah.
models.
Yeah.
and then the Thunder something, once per turn, you can choose one enemy. Speaking of giants, once per turn, you can choose one enemy unit on the battlefield and roll a number of dice equal to the wound characteristic. So here comes 35 dice, and for each 6 up, a mortal wound to your mega. Each turn.
You can call down the thunder.
Once per turn.
Yeah, once per turn. Yes.
Maybe once per round.
I don't know. We were relying on like sideways text, but yes, either once per turn or per round or something. The point is, he can zap lightning bolts anywhere on the battlefield and try to frighten people.
They have my attention.
Sure.
Probably once per your turn. Castellan of Azir at the start of the first round, after determining who has first turn before the first turn begins. Basically, you can redeploy D3 Hammers of Sigmar units. Pretty good. And any battle plan restrictions will still apply. He's got a 4-up ward, top the 8 wounds. And to top it off, at the end of a phase, if any enemy models were destroyed by wounds caused by him, he heals all of his wounds at the end of that phase.
Yeah.
So, 280.
I mean, probably. He is hard. Like, this dude is going to be hard.
And he's 8 wounds. That means he's bodyguardable. That means he is lookout sirable.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he's a little hero, right? Yeah, that's the point. He's a little hero by the leader terms, so he can benefit from all little hero things. and he
Mhm.
hits like a truck. He's not very fast,
Yep.
but he has a lot of utility. The redeploy theoretically will let you also play around with shoving people up in the heavens or pulling them down or whatever
Mhm.
pregame, right?
Mhm.
So you can get swippy swappy on him. I mean, look, if this is like all I'm saying is if like get 260 whatever something like that probably
I can see,
fine.
yeah, 260, 280.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
I
can
want
see
to see
that.
what the Celestin Prime's hammer does. If this is what Rando Stormcast hammer does, okay. Like this
Yep.
guy
Yep.
isn't. I mean, I
Yep.
shouldn't say Rando. He
He's
is
a,
like the leader of the hammers of Sigmar, right?
right,
So
the Lord Commander. Yeah.
Let's be clear.
yeah, he is the Lord Commander of an entire chamber.
Indeed.
But
Yeah.
the Prime is the Prime. He wields Gol Miraz, the weapon of Sigmar, like the thing that Sigmar uses to go crack god skulls. Maybe
Mhm.
let's make that weapon not suck. Just could we have the Prime be cool for the first time ever?
Sure.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Sure. I could see that.
It's a small ask, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got the FAQ update.
Yep.
Hmm.
Vince, you want to talk about that one maybe?
Sure. Yeah. So we got the fact to the fact. Clearly, it was all our show on last Wednesday that got that published out there with the fixes. No, that's not true. We had almost nothing to do with it. I'm quite sure. But I was very happy to see it on Friday. I was just sitting there painting actually, and was seeing everybody discussing it because as I'll discuss later, I was doing a little paint jam this last weekend. But the I mean, they fixed most of the things I wanted to see fixed. So they fixed obviously the ward thing that was a total nightmare. So great, we unwound that, which was, as I always said, the reason I wasn't super mad about it last week was because it was so clearly a mistake, and I expected them to fix it, and they did. They
Weird.
also clarified that when you they went for the harder interpretation, the one I was advocating for, Tyler, that when you bodyguard, you can't ward the bodyguard
Right.
unit, which
I
is
know
cool.
not everybody's happy about, but
I love it and think it's
we
absolutely
are.
appropriate. I still think they should just formalize this timing. By the way, like they should just make us. You know, they formalize the timing of the attack sequence or of the strike first, strike
Yep.
last, all
Yep.
that stuff. There's like a very
Yeah.
formal sequence you follow. They should really just formalize the damage allocation sequence in the same way. Like put out steps 1 through 5, and and that would be fine. That would clear up most of this, and then they could just say in step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever. But so you can't ward off a bodyguard, which is great. Bodyguards are now officially relegated to where they should be, which is just an alternative ward for that character. That's how they should function all of the time.
It's just a bad word.
I mean, it's a different word, right? Like, yes, it's still a word. Bad is too strong of a word. That implies it's not good. Keeping the character you want alive at the cost of a wound on a schlub you don't care about, is still good. It's just not as good as the standard ward save. Yes, I agree with that. But
Right.
not the best doesn't mean bad. That kind of light switch thinking is
I don't
not
know.
positive.
No, I mean, if it's not the best, it is by default bad.
No, that is absolutely incorrect. As every silver medalist in every Olympic sport ever.
By the way, Tom,
And
So-
and how do you think silver medalists feel standing on the podium?
Worse than the
next to
bronze
gold?
medalist, according to psychological research. That being
You're
said, they're
right.
still generally the second
Yes.
best athlete of that type in the world, so they should feel good. For any normal human, it's literally a lifetime accomplishment. What were you going to say, Tyler?
Indeed.
how happy I am to have this man back, because I've literally had conversations with you about how I feel like I don't argue with you enough, and now that's covered. Like,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't have to worry about
I
that. I
never
got
have to
it.
worry about that with you. Yeah,
No,
love it.
no. I disagree, Vince.
Martin Orlando says, "Don't 3 bodyguard war scrolls bypass this still? Maybe. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. It'll probably need an additional clarification. It's always a rolling FAQ. So anyways, they cleared all that up. Great stuff. They fixed up pinning, which I did not see coming. I was thrilled about pinning getting fixed. It was one of my least favorite things that happened as a result of the fact where they decided to screw up pile-in a month into the game. like just like they did in second edition. But this time we learned our lesson. They unwound it, and now you just pick a unit and pile in toward it the way you would logically think both the people in the world and the player would want to act. It's simple verisimilitude and stops ridiculous gamey BS garbage, which is all that would come out of that rule being like it is. It would allow bad, awful players like Tom to just like
awful players.
Yes.
I disagree.
Yeah, awful as in you're an awful human being, not awful.
Oh,
as in
okay.
you're
No,
a bad
I agree
player.
with that.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Good players that are awful people to abuse that. I don't like it when you win through rules exploits of that type. Like that's anytime you're doing that kind of crap, you're not actually winning through your tactical acumen. You're winning through your ability to manipulate a rule that works in a counterintuitive way. And that's just not how the game should function, if at all possible.
I hear that.
Yeah, so that was good. It was a great fix. What
Let's
else am I
see. We
forgetting?
got
Cogs.
navigate
The Cogs
realm
fix.
roots. Cogs. Yeah, we got Cogs fixed. So, well, Cogs changed to actually justify the cheap price of Cogs. So now it is what Facehammer actually had it as, interestingly enough, in their pack. So you just pick a wizard, and they get an extra spell cast.
Correct. The correct way it should have worked.
It should have worked.
That's how it should have worked always.
Yeah, yes, one wizard.
Period. Yes, and now it does. So hey, we got there.
Had one that I've seen a lot of questioning around. They had a spell portal clarification. The TLDR of it was some folks were doing an area of effect spell through both ends of the spell portal, which you should never do that, but apparently people were doing it. So they basically added some text to clarify, or changed the text around to clarify, don't do that. That's not how this intends. You got to pick one spell portal to have the spell go through.
Like, that's the kind of nonsense I just can't even wrap my head around.
Sure, right.
Sure.
They clarified mount trade. Some says allegiance abilities include mount trade. Each time you take a mount trade enhancement, you can pick one mount trade and give it to an eligible unit in your army. A unit cannot have more than one mount trait, and an army cannot include duplicates of the same mount trait. So they just added that to their list of enhancements to formalize it. Fix navigate realm routes that they had completely broken. Sylvaneth, so we got that back.
We're back. Sylvaneth are back. Fifth change, but we almost got there. It's not quite right yet.
Yes.
Would you like to explain, Tyler, why it's still slightly wrong?
Oh, if anybody from Games Workshop in the studio is listening, guys, we need to clarify. We need to update navigate realm routes for 3.0. So it's using old language, which means, as it stands right now in 3.0, if you are in combat and you use navigate realm routes, you're actually not going to be able to teleport out of combat because you're not. It's instead of a normal move, it does not specify.
And you can't do normal moves. Yeah.
You can't retreat. It doesn't specify retreat. It needs to specify you can do this instead of retreating. So yeah, we still need to have that.
Are you making the count, Vince?
The answer's 4.
Well, does Tyler have one?
No,
Tyler have one?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Tyler, do you have a Nashcon sword?
I'm giving my number, Tom, which is 4.
Okay. Well, how many Nashcon swords do you have?
Oh my God! Get out of here! I was being very nice.
No. This is not a slight of you. If you read the comments, somebody asks, we need a count as to how many swords there are.
This is Anthony asked, yes.
Anthony asked how many Nashcon swords are represented amongst the hosts.
Oh, well.
And Vince said 4 for himself.
I think I've got a best order and then like 4 4-1s, but somehow only a single best order to pump up the ego here real quick. Yeah, so I have 0 swords.
Aw, they didn't give best order swords?
Probably not in that year. Like they do now.
Yeah.
They did.
Come on, David.
Come on. 4-1 every year at NashCon.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been now, but that's all right.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat with you because I would be at 5, Tyler. So don't feel bad.
So the answer is 6. Sorry, Anthony, only 6 swords.
There you go. All right. Anyways, moving on. Who cares? It was a fun question. Navigate the realm routes. It's like you still some units can still run because of the way the wording did it. So Maybe that's intentional. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Like the fact that some units can use it instead of run or retreat because of the wording in the FAQ, and some can't. But it's not that it's weird that some can't do it. Like if it was just carte blanche, you can't do this. It's weird that like they specifically FAQ'd in some ability to do it, but not all ability to do it.
Right.
So like if it's just a benefit of those couple units that happen to have it, cool. Like if this is again where I go back to they should be putting in intention language, right?
Yeah.
When they say this,
Yeah.
like they should think through the consequences and speak to intent. It would clear up a lot of this stuff. Like you can italicize and speak in plain English. Like we are restoring back. Now this cannot be used in place of a retreat. We know that these 3 units can still do it in place of retreat. That was an intentional decision as a benefit to these 3 units because we felt they should be the highly mobile sort of either skirmish units or centers of the army that then move around the power. For your other units, though, once they're engaged, they don't have either the wherewithal or tools to escape out of a combat using it. Fine. Great. Then that would just clear it up, right? So just put in that kind of language.
What you're referring to, if I'm gathering, is that the tree revenants,
yes,
with their waypipes and the 3 big trees, Durthu, Ancient, and the True Lord, they can all do this. They can all teleport out of combat.
Right. Right, like those all can because the way the FAQ answer was sort of jacked in separately.
Seems like a job for the rules team.
Yeah, like which that we don't have that in the news, but they are hiring another developer.
I was do that. I was going to add that one. I was doing work.
I'm sure you were.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, they are hiring. GW is hiring again for a developer role. Sam came on today and he was like, "Hey, anybody wants to work with me and make that 4+ a 3+? Come join me."
Yep.
Well, that 3+ a 4+, as the case may be right now. But,
sure.
Yeah.
Indeed. So that's interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
So, but it is a Nottingham position. So for all of you U.S. folks, it requires a move.
Yep. Still.
Nope.
I'm not doing that remote thing. We'll get there.
I don't think they pay enough, and I don't think, and also I'm not moving to Nottingham. So if you're interested in opening up a consulting position, give me a shout. I'll see what I can do to set aside time for you. But beyond that, I'm not interested. But I hope they get somebody good.
Oh, do you guys have anything? I know we got events.
Yeah.
This is a new section. You're gonna enjoy this, buddy.
All right, so let's move to events. Yes, I don't think we have any other news items. That should be all the news. Let's talk events. Boom, event list up.
And this will be part of your job, I'm sure, at some point. You're gonna have to track this
every
time you're on.
Tyler, I have the distinct feeling this will never go away from you.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's talk events. So upcoming events, yeah.
So this weekend we've got Brew City Brawl, 3,000 points because Brendan is a madman. So that's going to be fascinating to see. I saw he's got 44 lists submitted on time, 15 order, 11 destruction, 11 chaos, and 7 death. What would you guys...
Womp, womp.
Yeah. What would you guys guess is the most played faction?
The most played single faction?
Single faction.
This is Brew City, and it's 3,000 points, right?
I don't think it'll be Suns this time.
No.
Because nobody has this number of Mega Gargants.
Yeah, nobody's buying extra Suns.
Right.
What were the faction breakdowns?
Those were just the Grand Alliances. 15 order, 11 destruction, 11 chaos, 7 death.
I'm gonna say Daughters of Cain.
Wow, that is a long shot call because they have always been a small meta percentage.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. I'm going big.
Sure, Seraphon.
I'll go. Yeah, spoiler. It's definitely not Daughters.
Seraphon.
You got Vince. Seraphon.
It's probably
It is Suns.
Wow. Okay.
I think Suns with 5.
Did everybody just throw the Kragnos in? Is that how we got there? They were just like normal giant list. Throw Kragnos on top because we all went out. All the Suns players. We all went out and got our Kragnos. And then, like, that and a baby, and they called it a day. Like, they got an extra baby giant sitting around.
That's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my expectation. A bunch of Kragnos and Grotrix run around this weekend.
Oh, sure. At 3K. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
We
That's
got that
exactly
going
what
on.
happened.
We got Facehammer GT, so that's going to be another big one.
Yep.
And then Melbourne GT as well. So yeah, it should get some interesting results this weekend. I'm not sure if I'm not looking at the window in terms of where we are, but for the October list of events,
I'll bring
I
it up.
added Reef Con. So folks, if you're in Australia, I think Townsville, definitely check that out. October 2nd through 3rd. Thanks to the gentleman who pointed that out in our comments last show. Appreciate that. We had missed it. And then we had 2 events last weekend. GT, about 30 players, and then one in Norway, Armacon, Norsehammer Open, 42 players. Kent GT, there were only 5 players that went 4-1, and only one that went 5-0. That was interesting.
That is interesting.
We had Steve Curtis take it out with Taker Tribe. He was the only 5-0. Jack Armstrong, Sire, Lumineth, Teclis, Cathalar, Sentinels, Wardens going 4-1.
Yep.
Benjamin Sava with really cool Nurgle list, 3x20 Plague Bears. Blow, Brought Spawn, Sloppity, Scrivener, Guo,
Yep.
really cool list. Bourbon Lord Corruptor was in there. A kind of nice techie list he had. Darren
I think he was the
Styles-
only one who beat Jack, right? Like he was Jack's
yes,
loss.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, Benjamin
Yeah.
was the one with his Nurgle list is the one who beat Jack. So there you go.
Darren Styles, Dracothian's Tell, and Russell Taylor, Hagnar, that wrapped up the 4-1. And then Armacon, we had 7 players at 4-1. I think 1 player at 5-0 that took it out. I'm not going to bother, as usual, with the Jim Bob American mouth to try and pronounce these Norwegian names. So we're just going to... Zytrek was the 5-0, Hagnar 4-1, Keltnar 4-1, Hermdar. Tom, we got a Hermdar up there, 4-1. Gotrick, Runefather, 2 Battlesmith, Rune Smiter, 2x15 Hearthguard Berserkers, 10 Volkite, Flame Spitter, 95.
Nice.
Yep.
Fan, Castelli, and Taker were the other 4-1. So, yeah, decent mix, but, a lot of what we're seeing in the top 6 are represented there.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think what we're seeing is that anybody can reach up there, but there are definitely some armies that are reaching
There's
more
some
than
trends,
others.
which I mean that's a healthier meta than we've had, right? Like where it's not locked. Your top 5 aren't locked. Like you occasionally get like a dwarf slipping in to the top 5, but that's not common, right? Like that's not the standard.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
And the latest compilation this week, now 22 or so events, we have 0 60%ers. We've got, a number that are in that 54, 58% range, particularly the top 6, Soulblight, Suns, Lumineth, Daughters of Cain, Seraphon, and I am missing one. Maybe I'll think of it here in a minute. But yeah, we've got the top 6, and then, yeah, it's a pretty nice spread. There's a few that
we're actually living almost in the fat middle. There's nobody at the top end because of the Mr. Burns syndrome, right?
Right.
As shown by like just sort of they'll hit each other and explode, and then it's like somebody else will sneak through, right? But the bottom end, there's a few people who have fallen off. Like if the fat middle, as I originally defined it, was 40 to 60%, right? Like that was our wide tolerance within AoS.
Right.
Obviously, the extremely healthy would be 45 to 55. That should be the goal. But that's why I called it the fat middle, because AoS is, tends to be a swingier game. So I said, okay, we'll tolerate 40 to 60. We've got a few armies that are failing to meet that low end bar. Yes.
Womp womp womp. Poor Beastmen.
Yeah, I think didn't Skaven also right now rank below that 40% number?
They actually are, yeah.
I don't believe that. That's a lie.
That's what you
not
get for
true.
being the fairest army in Warhammer right now. That's what happens. You get beat up by all these cheaters.
Skaven
Bruce
players,
Skaven.
come on. Adam Trunzo, there's got to be more Adam Trunzos out there that can get that number up. It's ridiculous right now. Ideneth as well. I don't understand why Ideneth are not high right now. Zinch was the 6th one that I was forgetting.
There we go.
How can I forget Zinch?
Of course. Just as the changer of the ways would have predicted. He caused you to forget and then remember. All according to plan. Yeah. So look, I'm looking forward to these events. I think some people in the comments said that Melbourne GT, because of the lockdowns, is now going to be an online thing. So okay.
Oh, okay.
Got it. So we'll see what Facehammer and Brew City do this weekend. Those will be our two big wins. Those are two big wins for this weekend.
Yeah, those are big ones. Yep.
Obviously, Brew City will create some odd lists, but we'll see. And then, I mean, both of them coming up this weekend are going to be strange outliers, as it were, because one's a 3K, and one is has like heavy sort of self-imposed comp, right?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see. But a lot of cool stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. Happy to see it. Cool. All right. So that's events, gentlemen. Shall we move to some pick of the week? Tom, you are technically the guest. What's your pick of the week?
Technically the guest. Ooh, it's just I'm so excited that I actually have something this week. Forethought. No, so I don't know that I've ever spruiked them before, but Aethercast is a group of it is a like show that is done by a bunch of KO, like it's a Caradron Overlords focused show, and all the big names. Yes, but like they have a stream too.
Oh,
so
do they? Oh, okay.
like they have like they do images and stuff like that too. So so it's a show. It's not just a podcast, but it's primarily a podcast.
It's a Caradron Overlords experience.
It is. And all the big names, obviously Crone and all of the people that you would expect anyway. That's been Crone. Sorry, had a couple drinks.
He is not a strange old like witch living in a swamp. He is in fact a human person. But yes,
I appreciate that. And they have a show coming up this weekend that I've been invited to be on, and so I'm going to spruik their show for them. Nice. And yeah, what can I say? And we're going to talk through my NatchCon games. And so we'll go through my list, the two lists that I built, why I took what I took, the logic. We'll walk through the deployments and the matchups and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Tyler, how about you? Everything, by the way, will be linked in the description. Tyler.
Thanks, Jonathan. He pointed out that NatCon is canceled due to the lockdown, so that's good to know.
Boo!
I know. Thanks as well. Cool.
People being safe. Darn it.
Sure.
Now, boo that they have to do that. Like, it's a shame that becomes necessary.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man.
I'm not booing Australia for being responsible with the health of their people. Yay, that. Boo that it had to come to that. That's unfortunate.
Indeed.
So, I know I mentioned them a lot. I haven't mentioned them on the show lately, so that's my excuse. Season of War, almost contractually obligated at this point. I love that channel. They had an amazing OTR Bone Reapers versus Caradron battle report this week. They did film it before the fact, so they were using Old Rules, Savage Gains, and Alpha Beast Pack Battalion, where for some reason they decided to give us Clown Car back. Tom, you guys did not need that. Nobody needs that in their life. So
I don't know. I want a Clown Car and Barak Nar.
Sure. It's nightmare. But, amazing battle report. So it was Mortis Praetorians, Catacros, Leech Cavalos, 30 Mortec, 20 Mortec, 2x5 Death Riders, Crawler. Actually saw a Crawler on the table in 3.0, which is weird. Battle Regiment for 1-drop 1950 for the Triumph. And it was Zilfin, Dirigible Engine Master, Ether Chemist, Admiral, Gotrick making an appearance. Definitely worth watching to see what Gotrick was up to in that game. 3x10 Arco, Argonaut Company, 10 Thunders, Ironclad, Warp Lightning, Get Out of Here, Go Away, Warlord, Hunters of the Heartland, 1990. Really amazing game. Yeah.
Nice.
My Warp Lightning was my MVP.
Sure. It's shocking.
91 wounds, Tom?
It was 35 in my first game.
My first game, 91 you were keeping track.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
So wrong.
Awesome battle report. It is linked down in the description right now. By the way, John Daly said the Sydney GT, which is in October, or was originally in October, sorry, has been pushed to January. So there you go. And also,
Okay.
Crypt Shadow asked, "Did we mention the small snippet of the Hollow Knight's Stormkeep rule or no?" I did. We did not. I saw it, where you get 4-up fight on death with them.
Right.
But I'm not. I'm going to reserve judgment on any of that stuff because
So we have a whole picture.
Yeah, until we have a whole picture of what it is, because it's just not worth it mentioning what is 1 out of 4 rules out of 7 Stormcast chambers. So like, it's such a small nothing. The next 2 weeks after this, we are going to be doing the book reviews. So like, I don't know in what order that's going to be yet. That's going to be based on guests and availability and stuff. So we'll be doing either Stormcast or Oryx next week, and then whichever one we don't do will be the week after that. So we'll have the full picture soon, and I can't wait. My pick of the week, already linked down in the description. You will find a link to Radio Free Hammer Hall, our good friend of the show, Paul Conti, who did a review of somebody who doesn't show up in this presentation we're about to talk about with Hidden Gems, but I do think has got play, and that is the Glotkin.
I like that big boy.
Yeah,
I'd
none
love
of
to
us
put him
picked
back on
him.
the table.
Now that's just because I limited us all to making. Each of us are going to have 5 picks, so we had to.
Right.
There had to be some kind of limit, so we're just not here for hours and hours and days, right? But
We
I do
probably
think
will be anyways.
we'll probably still be around.
3 hours 30 clocking in average.
No,
Tom.
stop
Get
it!
ready.
You stop your nonsense. All right, but the Glotkin, I do think deserves to be on this list. I do think he has a hidden gem. I think he's got some potential play. I know Honest Wargamer Rob just did a Nurgle faction focus, and the Nurgle list he reviewed there uses 4 big monsters. 2 Guos, 1 kitted for buff, 1 kitted for combat, Rodigus, and the Glotkin. So he's got all the fatty meat. It's everything's so marbled. So much fat.
I don't know what you do with that much meat.
Indeed. What are you, as Justin Timberlake famously asked, what are you going to do with all that meat? So I think he's a good pick, and if you want to see why, I think Paul highlights it very well. Check out the video down below on Radio Free Hammer Hall. So, all right, very good. That brings us through that pick o' the week, gentlemen. It's time to turn to some hobby time. I'm glad I am here with 2 people who probably painted nothing, but let's find out if I'm right. Tom.
Gotta save some time on the show somehow.
No, I appreciate it. Tom, have you done any hobby? Let's just say, what is this? Oh, you got the Mortalis. You got the Terminato.
The
Yeah.
Mortalis Terminexus.
The Terminato.
Yeah. Yeah, the
We
Terminator.
we were standing that hard, Tom.
Because it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it should probably be in our list. To be honest,
It could have made the cut.
It should have made, and actually, in fact, I would argue a lot of Night in a Haunt stuff should probably make the cut, and people just aren't giving them the time of day. But it's probably what I will take to Adepticon.
Yes.
Nice. All right. Awesome. That's a heck of a called shot from downtown. They could have a new book by then. That could be possible.
They could. I don't know that. It's just I like the tech that I'm seeing.
Cool. Very nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing you getting that painted, Tom. I have how to paint bottles as a tutorial on the channel if you'd like to get some help.
You make videos?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Tyler. Did you get any
What?
games in this last weekend?
I got a game in against Sons of... I seem to just play Sons of Behemoth and Archeon in my local meta
Sure.
somehow. Living the good life here. And got great enjoyment of redeploy. My friend Bryce, who's in the chat, he rolled a 6, which just completely screwed up the clock that I was on against Sons of Behemoth. You're on a clock. Got to get that damage in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was amazing, like how one dice roll can just cause a cascade of horrific consequences in a game.
Nice.
So that was fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was testing out the Sylvaneth chat that we had, where you were berating me about all of the save stacking that Sylvaneth can do
Sure.
and how it's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you may have a point. you, maybe. No,
Maybe.
You may have a blind spot here. You may have a, just like
Maybe.
me, I may have a Sons of Bahamut sized blind spot.
Right.
So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty easy. It turned out to get +3/+4. White Swarm Hive, Heat of Spirit Sun command ability, Mystic Shield, etc.
All out defense,
I mean,
finest hour, sure.
yeah, I
Continue.
didn't
The
mention
Kurnoth
the
base
usual.
scroll ability, sure.
Yeah, you could get at least +5.
Nice.
And I mean, obviously, yeah. So anyway, that was that's something. Yeah, I was just trying out someone else to see how crazy it can get, and yeah, it can get a little crazy. So anyway,
Right on. Very good. I sadly did not get a game in this weekend. Well, that is to say, I didn't get a game in of AoS. I got in 2 games of Rain and Hell because I was up in Wisconsin visiting Sam and Adam. We were having a paint jam / planning weekend, planning out the next game for next year. As well, Adam and I recorded a couple battle reports for Rain and Hell, which will go up on his channel at some point in the future. So that was very fun. So that was it was nice to film those. And Adam obviously has a much better setup for that than anything like I would have. So, and he took care of all the work, so I just had to show up and play, which was easy and fun. I got over the 3 days that I was hanging out there, 3.5 days, whatever. I managed to get an Annihilator and a half painted of my Ratcast, which I felt was really good. So now the unit is halfway done. This is my other half finished guy from the weekend. There he is. And but I came home and I've got to finish up my Lord Imperatant. So there he is. He's
Vince, we can't see those on camera. It's too dark in there.
Yeah, I know. That's fine.
You're wasting your time.
You hush your face. I'm just showing that it exists. So I'll do pictures at some point in the future, but he's almost done.
I saw your Annihilator. I didn't realize that you are scraping the shield and all of that off and replacing it.
Correct. Yeah, the shields are blank. Yes.
I'm guessing that was hand drawn. Your new.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I had to scrape off other stuff too. Like all their shoulder pads are also ground flat because they don't have any of the logos on like their shoulder pads. I got most of the.
I'm guessing you ground them and then lacquered the rough part.
I mean, it was a combination of different stuff, but it was like for the bigger stuff, like for the Annihilator shields, I had to get out the Dremel. Like I couldn't do it with. Oh yeah. I couldn't do.
Well, right, but like I'm guessing like Dremel, sprue glue, lacquer.
Well, it was Dremel. No, I didn't. I didn't really need to lacquer anything. It was like Dremel X-Acto to shave it down, sandpaper it down flat, and then just a thin layer of plastic glue over the top to then melt everything flat.
Yep.
It wasn't perfectly flat, and that's fine. I just use that. It just becomes battle damage where there's like cuts and scrapes and stuff or dents.
Right.
So it makes sense on a shield. Like that thing would be rather dented, even in even for clean Stormcast. It wouldn't, like, your shield would be the first thing that got busted up. So once I finish those 2 units, I will have 3 units done of my Ratcast, which I am excited. I will have a hero and a battle line unit and another unit. So it's moving along. I'll have almost 500 points probably. So I feel like we're getting somewhere.
Sure. Yep.
And I've got a bunch of things to paint for other people, so it's going to be a very busy month and a half. Anyways,
are you gonna paint my army for Havoc?
No, I'm painting nothing for you. I'm so full on projects. It's not even funny.
I heard that you were. Heard you're painting armies for co-host. So I thought, man, I want to get in on this train.
No, I painted an army for a co-host that contributes to the show.
Oh, got it. Noted.
Yeah. There you go. All right, gentlemen. So that's hobby time. Shall we get to the main topic? Shall we get to our hidden gems in AoS 3.0? Okay.
Righty-o. Here we go.
All right. Hidden gems. So, hidden gems. This show what we're going to talk about is basically the things that we feel in between second and third simply are better now. That's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah.
That have potential. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best of the best thing, but they've got potential. So, what is a hidden gem? So here we go. It's a unit, combo, or game element that people are possibly sleeping on. Doesn't always have to be powerful. Could just be a good trick or something fun and unexpected. The broader power of the army doesn't matter. Any army can have hidden gems, right? It can be an overall sort of underperforming army, but it can still have a hidden gem in it. Is there anything I missed with this gentleman? Does that feel like a correct description in your mind?
Yeah, no, it sounds great.
Yeah, seems good.
All right, then let's get promptly into the list. All right, so I have my first one here. I tried to order these in, like, so we can, it will, not one of us is talking straight through like I ordered all of ours. But I have the first one, Steam Tank Commander. Love this guy. Okay, I stan the Steam Tank Commander. This guy is so worth it. He's 230 points. He's 12 wounds on a 3-up save with an 8 bravery. One of the better braveries you're going to find amongst sort of heroes in the cities of Sigmar. There are obviously elves that can match him, but certainly he's the best human bravery. So he has a good chance to heal himself just off heroic recovery. He also has his own built-in D3 heal. So he can actually heal 2d3, 1d3, 2d3, 1d3, as it were.
Nothing has to happen for him to do that? That's just
nope, it's just
automatic?
a thing he can do. In your hero phase, you can just choose to do this. You basically don't take a different bonus. And that's then you
Yeah.
which
It's
you're not going to use
fascinating.
the bonus
I remember,
when you're highly wounded anyways. Go ahead.
I remember when you were thinking about pulling him out of your army.
I was, because he kind of underperformed for a few games before I figured out how to use him. Right?
Right.
Because I was still thinking that, like, I was expecting a decent amount of damage out of him, and that's just not what he's here for. Like, it's cool. He can sometimes shoot people with his gun.
He's a grindy pinning unit.
Exactly. You know, he has his own built-in all-out attack as well. So, like, technically it works on him and any other steam tanks, but you don't take other steam tanks because other steam tanks are bad. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're using it just literally to give him +1 to hit, right? He can pick an enemy unit, and then all steam tanks, including him, get +1 to hit. And the key with that is you generally often want to be using all-out attack on something else in the shooting phase. So you can still give him the +1 to hit he needs because his stupid cannon and his machine gun normally hit on 4s. This moves him down to 3s. I would state that he also has +1 to hit, even without the command point built into the cannon, if you target a unit with 10 or more models. So it moves to a 3 very easily, is my point. You can also then, between the combination of those two, counter out a neg 1 to hit. So he can still get there. A lot of wounding on 2s, which is quite nice, actually. Pairs well into Tempest Eye, and he becomes surprisingly fast in Tempest Eye. This guy has random movement, which is generally annoying. But in the first round, he's actually 2d6 +5 without a run, which is a pretty darn great movement. It's 12 inches on average becomes his movement, which is quite fast. And obviously you can run and shoot with him in Tempest Eye, because Tempest Eye has a run and shoot command ability. It will prevent you from using the other command ability, his particular, like, I put this aura up and get +1 to hit. But he can go really, really far if you need him to. I like him a lot between all his heals. He has a 30-inch range as well, by the by, on his main 2 attacks, which is his sniper rifle and his cannon.
Sorry, what was his base move?
Base move is 2d6. So 2d6
okay.
+2 if you use the more pressure thing, and then 2d6 +5 in round 1 in Tempest Eye, and then 3d6 plus whatever if you run and then run and shoot, right? So he can generally get where he needs to be, is my honest answer. This guy pairs super well with the Arcane Tome. This was my Arcane Tome recipient. This guy is great with an Arcane Tome. because he can. You can give him either levitate, so he can then use that movement to fly over things and pin where he shouldn't be. Or if you're feeling a little saucy, you can give him flaming weapon, and he can flaming weapon his crushing wheels. The D6 attacks that are neg 1/2 damage become neg 1/3 damage. And so like in general, I find him to be a extremely resilient unit for his points. That's the key. Mm-hmm. He's not actually a monster, okay, which is both good and bad, right? Good, he doesn't give up points. If somebody kills him, he's not he's not giving up those points, right? He's not giving the bonus.
And they're gonna like grind on him generally too.
Right.
Like not even like he's not an easy remove. I tried to easy remove him and I was wrong.
Correct. Like I've bounced Archeon off this guy a couple times. Like he's tough. Because that 3-up base save and the fact he's a hero, it's very easy to stack bonus. It's a safe stack on this guy. If you give him the Arcane Tome, he can Mystic Shield. Yep. Which I will often place him sort of outside Unbind range in round 1. Like, he'll kind of be one of the last things I set up. Make sure he's outside of Unbind range. Mm-hmm. And then he can Mystic Shield himself pretty freely. And then just, like, zip forward. Right? Because in Tempest Eye, you can play backboard because of all that bonus movement you're getting.
And then Tempest Eye, he's +1 to save turn 1 anyways.
Correct.
So he's on a 2-up turn 1.
Yep.
Plus,
without activating
he can find a hour all out defense. He can he can go real hard real quick.
Yeah. So I stand this guy. The long range, the 30-inch range actually came into play quite a bit. I would use him as one of my last attacks whenever I needed to really, really reach at something. Like 30 inches is a crazy range to have in this game. So, I think he's solid. Yeah, and in the crush, he does a little bit of good damage because of his damage to melee attacks. So it's not a lot, but it's a little. And he's fine.
How much did you say it was?
230 points. Absolute steal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what makes him good, right? He's right at that. Yeah. He's such a great points value.
He's affordable for what he is.
Yes.
Yeah, for what he does. Yeah.
His output is always like, okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
The number of times in the tournament that I rolled a 1 to wound on the steam cannon is statistically outrageous. Okay? Sure. It would be like 2 to wound, 1. There was, in one game, I noted it because it was so outrageous. This guy rarely died, by the way, so he was usually shooting. But in one game, he fired 4 rounds. I rolled 3 ones. I noted it because the third time I rolled the 1, the opponent was like, you rolled 3 ones for that. Like, the opponent noted it for me, and I was like, yep, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I would say that's only generally outrageous to anyone who doesn't play a model that has that one shot on like twos and twos,
of course,
and fails it all the time.
Yes. Single attacks, single ranged attacks somehow never work. It doesn't matter what they are. You roll the 1. But anyways, I like him. I think he's effective for what he is. He's a true gem in 3.0 because of all the abilities he got handed being a big hero. And he doesn't risk you. He's a fantastic piece in the army that can actually achieve the full save stack because he's that 3-up base save.
So pinning is going to be a bit of a theme tonight, I can tell. I think that's something that at least I haven't heard a lot of conversation about in 3.0 around. I was having this chat with my friend David last night, and just in general, I think pinning may be a little underrated. And it's definitely, it's a tactic we've always had in the game. I remember doing this back in 2016 with Sylvaneth. You would have a model, the Ancient, 4-up through Moonstone of the Hidden Ways, 2-up save, rerolling 1s, and a battalion household that does not allow you to retreat from it.
Sure.
Actually, Tom, that may have came up in one of our games at NashCon together. And
indeed.
Yeah, it was amazing. So anyway, pinning is definitely a great tactic in 3.0, as it's always been.
I always used to, like, a long time ago, I would always run the Mask in my Slanesh army, use her for the exact same purpose, right? Because she's was very defensive with her ward save and such, and you could minimize attacks, and she could, potentially make people fight last, and blah, 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 blah. I think pinning is a very underrated tactic. There's not a huge amount of retreat and charge in the game. And so it's generally a good tool to have in the toolbox. And he's one that'll do it. So, okay.
Yeah. Good.
Right on. Next up, Tyler, this one's yours. Karanak. Whoa. The three-headed corn dog. Yeah.
Saucy choice here. So he was on my list. Shout out to Konstantinos, our good buddy. Corn, very supreme. He definitely tipped me over for adding Karanak to the final 5. He's not a leader, which is actually great in Blades of Corn, because those 6 slots are at such a premium often with Blades of Corn. He can go in Hunters of the Heartland because of that, so that's nice, like Gotrek, for some reason. You're not taking him to be punchy, but he can be punchy. He's got a couple of profiles. He's got, like, his best one is 6 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. Maybe in Reapers you could activate twice with him. Get him on 3s and 3s. I mean, that's not where you're taking him, but it's a little bit extra on top. He's a 4-base save, which is nice. Potentially do a little stacking, get him to a 3-up.
How much is
Main
he?
thing though, he is that's the best selling point, because he's 150 points, And dogs, he summons 5 Fleshhounds for free, which are great. I mean, they were great in 2.0, I thought, and still excellent in 3.0. Dogs are now 105 points.
That's worth 150.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because as long as you can get near, you have to be near your quarry when you summon.
Sure.
But as long as you can achieve that, like, pick your hero smartly. Pick one you know you're going to be near, right? Or have that they're not going to, like, burrow in the back of their army, right?
Right.
And then, yes, he becomes a 45-point hero, right? That can do, like, decent damage. And he's got a lot of utility, which I think is where we're going next.
Yes, the real, other than his amazing point value and that he summons these dogs, so he's essentially 45 points, is the dispelling and unbinding that he can do, and how each time that he does it, he can trigger D3 mortal wounds on the caster. Now, this is a strange situation. So I was talking with Konstantinos about this today, and I didn't believe that this was true, but as far as I can tell, this is the wording. So it's strange in that, normally when you're doing, basically the TLDR is he can dispel and, as far as I understand it, he can dispel and cause D3 mortal wounds on the original caster of that endless spell.
Yep.
It's folks, you'll have to look at it if you're not sure on it, but as far as I can tell, that's true. Okay.
It's completely correct. The wording could not be more clear.
Okay. So he has a built-in dispel and unbind, so he could potentially do D3 mortal wounds twice, but of course now in 3.0, you're dispelling in each hero phase. And you could heroic willpower in the opponent's in the enemy hero phase to get an extra unbind. So that's potential 2 dispels and 2 unbinds for a total of up to 4 D3 mortal wounds to casters.
Yep.
In a single round.
For 45 points.
45 points.
For effectively 45 points, yes. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The addition of heroic willpower, right? Because he is a hero.
Yeah.
He can choose to do this. And if somebody's silly enough to put endless spells out, I mean, like, he's dispelling with no bonus, right?
Sure.
Fine. But if someone's silly enough to put endless spells out in an area where you can dispel at them, right? Where you're in range, which, by the way, obviously it's a pretty big range. Between his normal dispel capability and heroic willpower, you can really punish casters for tossing out endless spells. Like, it's amazing. Like, the logical play there is almost not to cast your endless spells, because he's just going to eat them and kick the caster in the teeth, right? And if you get your wizard, or if you get your enemy to not cast the endless spells they wanted to cast, again, great win, like super win, right?
That's a great point, Vince. It's one of those situations where it's the potential threat of that, for whatever reason. I mean, Khorne is not generally doing a lot of power projections, so maybe, maybe there's a Slaughter Priest, but, maybe that wizard has taken a few wounds, and they might pop that 5 or 6 if they dispel it in the spell to do those last 3. Like, you're right. That threat could be meaningful.
Yes.
I think he's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big Karanak stan. Have been for a long time. That's not a joke. I don't mean that sarcastically. Like, if you go back to previous shows, which I don't know what you'd watch hours and hours of footage, but I've talked about
Vince
this
has
dog
always
many
been a
times.
huge Karnak Yeah, the dog general.
Yes.
Yes.
I used to talk about how Lassie was your perfect general back when he was a leader because you could make him the general and all the bloodthirsters would just follow him along.
Yep.
But yeah, even though he can't do that anymore, I still think this guy is really solid. I would point out if you do manage to get him to fight the hero that is his quarry, he does still have built-in reroll hits and wounds. So again, a lot of rerolls went away. He is 6 attacks on 4s and 3s, neg 1 d3 damage with his main attack. That's not the greatest profile, certainly, but when it becomes 4s and 3s,
with an all-out
both,
attack, yeah, 3s and 3s.
Right, rerolling all, that's actually quite good. So he can do damage. So it's
It
just
sounds like Gotrek. 6 attack, 3s and 3s, reroll all.
Very similar, yes.
It's basically Gotrek.
Basically Gotrek. But yeah, the key is, you got to pick your quarry smart, right? Something that he's going to want to go fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's also nice and mobile.
Steam Tank.
Like a steam tank, sure. He's also quite mobile. 8-inch move is fine, but the key is he also has built-in reroll charges, which is also cool. I like things. Now that rerolling charge is limited to once across your army, having it just built into units is really good. And so anybody who shows up with reroll charges, that's an A+ ability in my book. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, great pick. I dig him. Karnak. He's like a fine wine. He only gets better with age. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Tom. Or wait, is this your pick, Tom? Or is this...
It is. No, it's mine. Yeah, Geminids.
Okay, all right. First of all, I don't know that Geminids were bad, but... All right, Tom. Tell us about why Geminids are...
So, I mean, what I'll say is this. Like, they weren't bad, but I don't think that people have really internalized what they're doing and what kind of effect they have on the game.
I haven't seen them in that many lists.
This is true.
We haven't. And I faced off against a Zinch list, and it just about shut me down.
Okay.
And because what happens with this endless spell is if you get pinged for the 1 damage, which is like, if you don't roll a 1, you're going to ping for 1 damage. And when you take that damage, it shuts off all command abilities. Like, the units can't receive or give command abilities until your next combat phase, which means the movement phase, the shooting phase, and the charge phase. That's all-out attack, because it's at the end of every hero phase they're moving, right?
Yep. That's right.
That means your all-out attacks. That means your auto runs. That means your reroll charges. That means your unleash hell. That means everything.
Yeah.
Redeploy.
To me, it shuts off the 3 things I agree with this pick, and I think this is truly underrated. Is it shuts off redeploy, unleash hell, and most importantly, all out defense in the shooting phase.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
One of the actual few things in the game that can achieve that. All out defense in the combat phase is much more commonly easy to stop.
Sure.
Right, because you can roar at people.
Right.
But all out defense in the shooting phase, its existence and the fact that it does exist is one of the things that keeps shooting sort of in line. Like it's tamping down on the power of shooting. Is that simple existence of that command ability?
Yep.
This is one of the only ways to actually shut that off. Period. In that phase, right? That's the key.
Yep. And it's moving, and you're moving 2 of them, so like everything in the area is getting hit. Sure. Like all the units are going to get pinged, and all those command abilities are going to get shut off. Like for KO, basically it just said I can't use command abilities on this half of the battlefield.
Right.
Because everything that I was doing was in the movement or the shooting.
Right.
Or charged as a reaction.
You can throw this through the spell portal as well, and God forbid, if you've got a way like Arcan to extend the range, which now, for some dumb reason, in my opinion, adds to endless spells, even though we've never had that before. But so it could be through the spell portal, and then 8 inches, and if you've got like another 6, add on top of that, now it's 14 inch. So potential reach of this is quite significant.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, it's triggering every hero, so it's scary as crap.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not the easiest dispel. It's not the hardest, but it's on a decent enough casting number that once it's out there, you stand a chance of it sticking around.
Right.
Yeah, it's on a 6.
So
Yeah.
Like, it just, the utility of this is what jumped out at me. Like,
Sure.
obviously damage, I don't care about that, but the fact that, like, what it's doing to, like, battle plans, to be on the receiving end is actually a really big deal.
Yeah.
And you can actually use it to shut down some really unique command abilities. Like some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about that are gems later in the show, this would shut down. This would stop those tricks completely out of the gate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of good command abilities that actually happen in especially like movement and shooting in that time period.
yep. Yep.
So like being able to turn those off is pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't seen it in more lists, is my honest answer. Because it just feels like, everybody talks about like, oh, Unleash Hell is very powerful, or Redeploy is very powerful.
It's just pure utility. Like this endless spell is pure utility, and it should not be ignored.
Yep. Yep. I agree. All right, next up, I just have written here Skaven. That's all I've got as my header. So I'm going to talk about 3 cool things that you can include in a single army if you were inclined to, that I think are awesome in Skaven, and I don't see as often. Now, if List Labs is in the chat, he knows all of these already. I know Smorgan out there, he's not sleeping on any of these, but I think a lot of people are. And we got to get Skaven up over that 40%, boys. Come on, let's go. So, all right, Cunning. Let's talk about Cunning. Cunning is a command trait. It is for Master Clan, which you will often have a Master Clan general, regardless of what you're playing. It's almost a guarantee. After the battle has started, roll a dice each time your opponent receives a command point. On a 6, you receive the command point instead of them. This is fantastic.
That's cool.
Because you get a lot of command points now. And so, like, you go first. Your opponent goes second. They get 2 command points. You roll 2 dice. If one of them is a 6, you steal one of those 2, and now you have 2, and they have 1. If their general is still alive, you roll a 6. If they heroic action, you roll. If you're rolling for the 6, like, there's a lot of things that give command points in this game. Now, sadly, there's also a few people cropping up who can just they can once around use an ability without a command point being spent. So, unfortunate, you can't steal from that. Like, for example, the new Lord, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Impuritant.
Well, no, the Lord Impuritant can do it, but I was also thinking of the new Bastion guy.
Oh yeah, the Lord Commander. Yeah,
similar ability. So, at any rate, I love Cunning. I think it's a very worthwhile command trait, just because it is a very fun roll. It is a very fun roll. Let me tell you right now. Every time they're like, I gain a command point, you're like,
Go fishing for 6s.
You can have it. Yeah, it's just, it's great.
It's Vince's own private Kraith.
Yeah, exactly. You're just rolling. It's the Kraith roll, right? So it's a lot of fun. The Staff of Rightful Supremacy. This is a magic item, also out of Master Clan. Subtract 1 from casting rolls of enemy wizards while they're within 13 inches of the bearer. Just within, not wholly, of course, because it's an enemy thing. 13 inches isn't too bad of a range. It's a little close, but it's not terrible. In addition, once per battle, you can dispel 1 endless spell within 13 inches of the caster. You do not have to roll 2d6. The dispel automatically succeeds. So the fact that you can dispel in both hero phases now makes this item innately more powerful. Things like your Vermin Lords, who are still extremely tough, even under the new rules. They're still quite difficult to remove. They self-heal like a boss, so they can often go deep or pop up out of gnaw holes or stuff like that. So they can be getting that threat range in. And it really says, in either hero phase, is there some endless spell that's annoying you? No, it's not. Don't roll 2d6. Rolling 2d6 is for losers. And there are a lot of spells that even with all the bonuses you can generate in Skaven, it's better to just go, nope. Nope, you can't have that. So I like this ability very much.
Is this sub-faction tied, or I can't remember if that's how the Skaven book works or not?
The Skaven book doesn't work like that. It just has to go on a Master Clan hero. So any Master Clan person can take this. Which, again, you will always have some kind of Master Clan person in your army. Say, for example, maybe a Vermin Lord Warpseer or something. So there you go. Finally, the Gnaw Bomb. The Gnaw Bomb was
Yeah.
something I was always a fan of, but boy, did it get a lot better now. So once for battle in your hero phase, you can pick one terrain feature within 6 inches of the bearer. Until your next hero phase, that terrain feature has the scenery rules from the Gnaw Hole, in addition to the scenery rules it already has. So you can turn, like, say, enemy faction terrain pieces into Gnaw Holes, and then pop out of them, which is fun. The reason I like this is because the Gnaw Hole got changed in the new edition, as did all of the faction terrain. And the key is it now triggers at the end of the movement phase. So you can actually evac people out by turning a nearby terrain piece to a Gnaw Hole and then simply leaving. You can just retreat near the thing and then leave, and you can teleport to any other Gnaw Hole. You can
you can retreat and then at the end of the phase teleport.
Correct, exactly.
Because it's not instead of a normal move.
Correct, exactly. Yep. So you just do it, and then you can still walk through it. So you can move up to them and then go, which is super cool. It also works for the popping out, obviously. So you can have a unit far away. Oh, surprise! They moved up to this Gnaw Hole over here. I turn this thing in. Bang bang! Now I've got a unit coming at you from a different position. So it's just a really cool, ability that will keep your opponent constantly guessing. Like, it makes them always paranoid because every terrain piece on the board becomes a redeployment option for you. Right? If combined with, like, Skitter Leap or Dreaded Skitter Leap, it just becomes really, really potent, because then you can be teleporting around in the hero phase. Bloop. Now that's a Gnaw Hole. Bloop. Now there's a whole unit popping out of it. Bloop. You didn't, like, now all of a sudden there's a bunch of dudes in your backfield. Okay.
Why in the hell I've never heard of that Gnaw Bomb? That's
Isn't
amazing.
it great?
Oh, they used to use it with the big Storm Fiend units, like the of 12, and so they turn something into a Gnaw Hole and just teleport 12 Storm Fiends anywhere they wanted. Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. It's a super cool art. This is also an artifact. This is an artifact that has to go onto a Eshin hero. So you need either a Deceiver or a Deathmaster for this. So both of whom are Skitter Leapable.
Yeah, both of the people who would be Skitter Leaping.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So it's a very easy thing to use. And the Deceiver is a great piece. Anyways, he is one of the few good things in the game that has -3 rend. So. And he's -2 to hit and shoot, or -1 to hit and shooting. Sorry, yeah, because -2 went away.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyways, all of these things got more powerful in 3.0 because of the various reasons that are out there. So.
Yeah, those are excellent.
And I think together they provide this really nice control package. So I dig it.
Yep.
Steal your opponent's command points. Get rid of, hurt their own casting, shut down their own spells, and always keep them on their toes because they never know where you're coming from. So there you go.
Yep.
All right, heroes. Now I have the Nomad Prince on here. This is just called heroes, but the point here is that many heroes that were previously questionable are solid. I've talked about the Nomad Prince and my belief in him in previous shows, so I won't reclassify all that. But if you're looking for a great foot hero in Cities of Sigmar, look at the Nomad Prince. Don't sleep on this guy. He is a boss hoss. You need 0 other Wanderers units to make this guy valuable. But Tom also had a pick on here, which I'm going to let him talk about. Rune Father on Magmadroth. Tom, take me through this guy and why you like him.
Yeah, so he was always a liability to me whenever I was building Fire Slayers, because you couldn't bodyguard him.
Okay.
Right, you couldn't guard him with the Auric rune, the Auric Hearth guards, and you wanted to keep your hero alive for Lords of the Lodge, and so there was an overemphasis on wanting to keep this guy alive or kill him. He's going to be your general because you need to have a Rune Father general, which means that if you're going to run him, which means you're also going to be in Hermdar likely. Just playing Fire Slayers, if you're in Hermdar, he's also broadcasting a -1 to wound bubble. So he's going to be a high priority target that's going to want to die. And what's so fascinating is in the new world that we live in, where in general, the stocks of heroes have went up because they can self-heal in every hero phase now.
Sure.
Because of the generic what I call the generic defense package, which is being a hero, which gives them finest hour and hero phase healing, combining that with the 5-up ward save amulet, moves him to like a really hard target. That you can have him like one thing that Fire Slayers have in spades is +1 to save. Like it's everywhere in their army, from their banner bearer to their prayer, and then you combine that with like you can get wizards easily enough now with the book or with the book, or you can easily bring in a 95-point allied Stormcast wizard if you need one for Mystic Shield.
Did they ever take away Battlesmith save stacking? You cannot do +2 from 2 different Battlesmith, +2 to the same model?
I think, I don't know, I'd have to double check on it. But most people aren't going to generally run 2 Battlesmiths, especially because save stacking generally doesn't work anyways. But what you can also slip in, like, depending on how your items go, you could get the 4-up spell negation bubble off the Battlesmith, which is not a ward, because it negates spells.
Right.
The damage and effects of spells. So you can still get that 4-up, and then he has a 5-up from his amulet after save that'll probably be sporting. And the mount trait reduces all Ren by 1, or you could take the mount trait that gives reroll 1s on saves. And so he can get to 3-up reroll 1s really easy.
Oh, yeah, that reduced Ren by 1 is so amazing.
So, like if you run a second Magmadroth, they can have the all Magmadroths within X inches reroll 1s to save, and then he himself can reduce Ren by 1. And so, like, he actually becomes a really hard target that's going to splash a ton of mortal wounds.
Yep.
By what he's doing, he's going to get in. He's going to be -1 to wound in a bubble because he's on the larger base, and he's going to be more highly mobile as a Magmadroth. That's going to broadcast a larger area. So, like, his utility, because of all these small little knob adjustments in 3.0, just went through the roof.
Yeah.
And so he... What?
Yeah, that's not 285. That's not too
285 is not a bad cost on a hero. Especially because you're going to want him as your general anyways to make Hearthguard's battle line. So, I'm a big fan of this guy, like, now, where he's at. Because... the Auric Hearthguard, we joked around about their ward save being bad or not being bad. It is bad if I can do that, or I can just give him an amulet and not share wounds with anybody and just be a better ward save.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I like what this guy's bringing. He has just a lot of solid aspects to him for his points cost. So, and he's a monster, so he can stomp and he can roar and he can do all the neat,
Sure.
monstery things.
Now, arguably, because of the FAQ answer, it's possible that the mortal wounds he kicks back can't be negated. Okay?
Right.
I don't know.
Yes.
Like, it's a little bit of an unusual situation. Their answer there wasn't as clean as I would like it to be, because there's a lot of these situations. Like, the Meat of Sit Wanderers change also opened this door. Like, I rolled a 1 to hit. Can that bounce back be negated? Some people say no. Some people say yes. The ones that are very clear are like the shields on daughters, where if you roll a 6 to defend with a shield, you clap back. Obviously, those can't be negated. That answer couldn't be more clear. But with these things where they're not, you didn't roll a die to negate it, which then triggered it. So, is there a point to try to shut down all of these or still allow these? I don't know. Need another FAQ on that. But if if this ends up falling into that category, then he actually becomes way more dangerous, right? Because then, even units with mortal wound protection attacking him just get basically auto wounded, kicking into him for 50% of the damage they do. Just
melded, yeah, and then he's gonna self heal, and he has a decent enough bravery that he'll likely, make his roll and heal back up. So I'm a fan of this guy now. I used to not be, and I'm glad I did a custom conversion for him, because it's a great model.
Yeah. No, I agree. Cool. Solid pick. All right. Next up. Oh boy, here he is. We've been trying to get this guy into the conversation for a while, and now it's time. Tyler, tell us about the Tree Lord and why this guy is now good. Here we go.
Here we go. We finally did it. We absolutely finally did it. Yeah, folks, you need to play True Lords more in your Sylvaneth list. Okay, they are 190. So of course, Kurnoth went up. A lot of Sylvaneth players have been complaining. We've got 225 for the swords and the bows. We've got 215 for the scythes. That's a decent differential, 190 compared to that. Still has the free teleport, so that's big. So
He has
you
the
could run
good
a
teleport, right?
The good teleport, yeah. So he's a great, navigate realm routes you can only use once. And if you're not playing Dreadwood with its free teleport for command ability, which a lot of people are not right now, it's mostly null route all the time, various reasons. You could free teleport your Tree Lord, navigate realm route some Kurnoth, let's say. And that makes a great power pair on an objective. I love 3 swords and a Tree Lord. That now gives you 11 models on an objective. You put those 3 little, 50 millimeter bases wrapped around the wherever of your Tree Lord. And if the enemy is going to come into you, they're going to be within 3 inches of the Tree Lord, potentially get stomped. Because for some reason, the trees, big trees, we still have the 2019 activation wars alive and well.
Yep, because now you always get it. Right?
Yeah.
Because it used to be that you could get stuck with your stomp because it was a start of the combat phase thing that made people fight last. And so in 2.0, if you got smacked by somebody who was coming into you with always strikes first, they'd hit you before you could activate. Not anymore. Not in 3.0. That timing has been clarified, so he always gets that stomp. As I said to you before the show started, Slaanesh might have lost the make you always fight last rule, but Sylvaneth did not. No. All the big trees still love to stompy stomp, and they got a 50-50 shot of making you go last. I should also state that with their stomp, it's so funny to me. With the Slaanesh always fight last, ours was always extremely controlled. Yeah. Right? Like, you couldn't, like, once you tried it on a unit, you were locked out of doing it to that unit again. Like, I couldn't run 2 Greater Demons into somebody and roll twice. Right, trying to get that unit to fight last. I got one shot at it. It either worked or it didn't. Yeah. Right?
That's not how these trees work.
That's not how Tree Lords work, right? Like, Tree Lords are just like, they can all just go nuts. If you got 3 Tree Lords or 2 Lord Ancients or however you got stomps, they can all just roll their dice, and if anybody gets a 4-up, you're fighting last, and then all the trees wail on you. So these guys have only... That rule is so funny to me that you have basically a better version of the thing that everybody hated in Slaanesh.
Right. Yeah, and so we were talking about the pinning game earlier with the Steam Tank Commander, and the True Lord is a great piece, I think, to continue on that thread. Particularly now with all the different save stacking that
is he a base 3-up or base 4-up?
He's a base 3-up.
Yep.
Amazing.
190?
190. Yeah. So Spite Swarm, again, probably you're running him in null route, so you'll have should have a wizard in range as part. Let's say you're doing that power pair. You got 3 swords, maybe 6 eyes, and a True Lord in one location. So that's one of your what do you call them? Sort of one of your focal points, whatever the term is. Usually your army will have like basins of power. Usually your army will have like 3 or so basins. Yep. Yeah, base power. So that's going to be one. You'll have a wizard nearby, branch witch, whatever it is. So rerolling once to hit for everything in range. Cool. Spite Swarm Hive. It's pretty easy to get off nowadays with especially the Warsong Revenants with Chalice of Nectar, roll 3 dice, pick the 2 highest, +1 to cast within range of a Wildwood. Spite Swarm Hive, you can get +1 to save for every unit, Sylvaneth unit, wholly within 8 on a 2-up. You roll 2-up per unit. +1 save there. Heed the Spirit Song command ability from the True Lord Ancient, another +1 save. And then, of course, the usual Mystic Shield, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, he doesn't get access to Finance Hour. But it's pretty straightforward to get get a True Lord on the equivalent of a 1-up, stacking twice with Spite Swarm and the Heed the Spirit Song command ability, which is always basically going to be, if you got Kurnoth, it's going to be in range for most of your army because they beacon it out as well as the Ancient, the Ancient. But I think he's an amazing pinning piece that's being underutilized right now in the Sylvaneth player base. And it's kind of old school Sylvaneth, where that, like I was mentioning, Tom, that was definitely one of the original tactics that you would use. I think he's awesome for that. And, he can put out a little bit of damage with 5 attacks, 3s, rerolling 1s, maybe 2s, 3s to wound, -1, d6 damage. I love him at 190.
Yeah, I would point out his big attack, his impale, which whatever, it's fine. It is the one that can do d6 mortals, but you've got to roll the 6 to hit with your one attack, so I wouldn't exactly bank on it.
Right.
But his big sweeping blows are a 3-inch reach, right? And his stomp is a 3-inch reach, so he can sit behind, as you were describing, like just to make this very clear for
He's
everybody.
a nice.
Yeah, you can have like the Kurnoth up front into the unit. He's still in combat right behind them. He's still fighting with his main weapon, still stomping and getting them to go last. And they may not even be able to hit him back, right? Because he's going to be at basically the 2-inch line on the backside of a 50 mil base. So pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, and that's quite a bit. I know we talked a lot about how -1 Ren has gone down to Valley, which, yeah, it has, but all else equal, that still can be a good amount of damage output, particularly if you're +1 attack, those 3 swords. I mean, 3 swords in a lot of my test games so far with Simonath are still quite good, quite capable of putting out some damage. Just to make this a little clearer in terms of the pinning, like, think about Sons of Bahamut. So, like, I played them last night, and I underappreciated the save stacking potential of this army and what that can mean in terms of the pinning potential. Normally, I'm worried about the -3 Ren Gatebreaker blowing through my units, but you could, fairly comfortably send in a Tree Lord with +3 stacking against a Gatebreaker to tie it up, and that could be enormous in terms of the clock against Sons of Bahamut.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's got a number of different uses.
Yep.
Nice.
Good.
I like it. I'm standing it, man. I love it. I love bringing back the Tree Lord. I want to see him back on tables. This guy was such a beast in previous editions of Warhammer, so it'd be really good to see him back on. I've had him ever since I had the tiny little metal ones. I used to have the ones that are now like ogre sized, like hilarious.
Right. I remember those. Yeah.
Okay, and he's an awesome sculpt as well. So this guy's just good all around. Okay, very nice. Vampire Lord. All right, since this guy survived 2 waves of FAQs, I felt it was time to talk about the Vampire Lord. All right, so this guy. Okay, the Vampire Lord. Here's how he works. The only thing we care about is what's in the orange box, the command ability. Everything else on this guy, who cares? He is what he is, right? And he's not that expensive, by the by. Okay, so I was sad when I saw this guy that he wasn't more hitty, but whatever. It's a shame that he's not more offensive, but he's offensive enough. He's a 3-up base save. We're already starting strong. That's great. We've talked about before how good that is in this current edition. Command ability. You can use this command ability in the combat phase. So it is fighting against all-out attack and other command phase or the combat phase abilities. But let me keep reading. If you do so, pick one friendly Soulblight Gravelord summonable unit wholly within 12 inches of this model. Say Graveguard. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons until your next hero phase. Until your next hero phase. So, the same unit cannot benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. Well, that's cool. I wasn't going to do it more than once per phase, but I was going to do it multiple phases in a row. So it's my turn. I put it on my Graveguard or whatever. Pick your unit. Their +1 attack. Now it goes to your turn. Tyler, it's your turn. And in the combat phase, I use this command ability again.
That is so weird.
I'm still writing. I have
it.
not had another command. I have not had another hero phase yet, so now they're up to +2 attacks. Oh wait, you just double turned me. In your second combat phase. I'll do it again. Now we're up to +3 attacks. Okay. The longer you let it sit there without me getting a hero phase, the more deadly this unit becomes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never heard about this.
Yeah.
We did a 4-hour show, and I don't remember talking about this.
The most egregious part of this is that they limited it to Soulblight Graveyard units, because they used to be able to do this with all summonable, any death unit.
Right.
And so the Vampire Lord was a shoe-in for me on Nighthaunt. Like, I have a Vampire Lord conversion for my Nighthaunt, because he could do this to my my horsies, my hex wraiths.
Sure.
And they had 2 profiles, and so they were getting 2 attacks per usage.
Yes, now it's only SBG summonables, and sure,
Yeah.
maybe this will get fixed in the winter FAQ. It seems hilariously silly, but it didn't get fixed now, and I don't think we're getting another FAQ anytime soon. So for the next 3 months, yes, as has been pointed out, this can combo off with Necromancer Dance. So if you happen to get a Van Hells and you're up to +2 or +3 attacks, now it's +4 or +6 attacks. Pretty great. And yeah, it does a lot of work. I would also point out that if you're in Virkos,
Yep.
you have a command trait you can take that lets you use a command ability once per turn for free. So if you happen to give this guy that command ability, then he doesn't even sap away your command points to do this. So you can just sit there and be like, +1 attack, that's free. Next round, +1 attack, that's free. +1 attack, that's free. And so on and so on and so on. So he can just always do that. And as I've stated before, this guy is also an excellent... I don't have it on the sheet here, but he's an excellent guy to have a launch on the Soul Seeker to shuttle him around to get it, because he needs to be wholly within 12. He has a little bit of mortal wound protection just from being a death hero in Soul Blight. So, the cost of 1 mortal wound is extremely worth it for him to just be able to shoot around the board basically 21 inches effectively with how launching works. And you can just easily position him to be within range of what you need for that unit. So there you go. Dig this guy. Dig his wacky stacking command ability. It's a slow build, but it works.
As you're talking about this, I'm just remembering Brendan Melnick pointing out in one of our chat threads that they missed something. Everybody, shh. And I was going to look into it. Like, what is he talking about? And
this is what he's talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, full credit
Sorry, Brendan.
To Brendan, who has used this. I was aware of this before Brendan had mentioned it, or I saw him use it, but I did not think of the combo with the free command point of turn. That is definitely no, with the free command point of turn. That is Brendan's contribution. So good stuff. He does get he gets full credit for that one.
He earns his namesake, Lord of Death, again.
Absolutely. I thought of the basic way to use this. He added the folds to the brain for sure. He is the Lord of Death after all. There we go. That's the Vampire Lord. All right, next up, Tom, Thunderers. Again, I'm not sure these guys were ever super underrated, but at the same time, people like those. So talk me through these.
No. Yeah. So it's interesting.
I think this definitely counts for all the ways they got better in 3.0, but hit us with it.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of people... let me start this way. It wasn't until I used these guys in a number of matches with mixed weapons. To be very clear, I'm not talking about Thunderers with rifles, which was almost the only way they were built in the prior edition. So, like, most people out there have Thunderers in just straight... Like, Kron is an exception to this, but in general, most folks were running rifles, like heavy rifle Thunderer units. And running 10 mans of these mixed weapon Thunderers, which limits almost all of your weapon ranges to like 9 to 12 inches, which is really restrictive, to be honest. But what's so fascinating is the way the synergy of the War Scroll changed with the new 3rd edition rules. And particularly, they have 2 abilities that are significant here. One is that whenever you do have that mixed weapon profiles, like 3 of the 5 weapons get +1 to hit blanket.
Yep.
When you have at least 1 of each weapon. So that's a helpful, like, just a blanket +1 to fight those neg 1s that are going to be inevitable. Or more importantly, when you unleash Hell with this unit. Yep. Because then you have a baked in +1. Yeah,
because you can't all out on an unleash, right? So because it's already there, you're countering the penalty and staying on your base numbers.
You're going to stay on your base numbers. But what's so fascinating is that The other base ability that they had, which is something I used to bitch about, was that when, like, you never got the benefit of, they had to be in combat for 1 to 2 rounds of melee combat before they actually got the benefit of this ability, which was, if you have an enemy unit within 3 inches of you, all of your weapon profiles get +1 attack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like, really good when you have, like, Aether Cannons on, like, 3s and 2s, -2 rend D3 damage, right?
Sure.
Suddenly that goes from 1 to 2 attacks a model, and you have you have 2 of those in your unit. Suddenly, like, that ups your your average damage pretty significantly. But what's so fascinating is, so when you unleash a unit is within 3 of you,
Right.
which means that not only are you +1 to hit from the mixed weapons, you're also +1 to all your profiles when you unleash.
Right.
And, like, there were a number of matches that I just set this unit out and baited a charge. Just inviting people in, with them not really, like, understanding the consequences of that. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to take some shots. But actually, like, they're more dangerous in an unleash than if you just leave them there normal.
Interesting.
And then they're also fighting, they're getting a shooting round outside of their normal shooting phase.
Yeah.
So they're actually participating in their damage out of phase, out of sequence. And so I am a huge fan of the 10-man Thunderers. And in fact, I even looked at, like, what do I need to do to get 30 or 40 Thunderers in 10-man units. One of the other fascinating things briefly about KO is that they have their Aether Gold,
Yep.
but you have to have 10-man units. And that's actually surprisingly hard in that army now. Because basically you only have 2 units that are non-hero, non-ship units that can receive Aether Gold at this point. None of the riggers can, because of how they restricted units. Even in the best case scenario where you can double reinforce, you only get to 9 models. But you can do 10-man units of Thunderers and 10-man units of Arco, obviously. But here you can have the Aether Gold for +1 to wound. You can also get Triumphs for the +1 to wound. Like, if you have a normal Triumph, all of that's giving +1 to wound. You're only going to get one. You're only going to use it once. But there were often times where I was sitting on a +1 to wound Triumph and I had an Aether Gold, and I would just save that. Like, I would be like, okay, well, I'm going to use this one for my unleash, and then the next round, since I'm still in combat, I'm going to use it again, and everything's wounding on 2s now. And they can do some real work. I think they're probably still overcosted at 270, but they can do some real work at 10 models. Even with those short ranges.
270 for 5 or 270 for 10? Okay.
For 10, which is 20 wounds. Yeah, that's 1 reinforcement point, 20 wounds. On
It's
a
like
4
that's something.
base save. Yeah.
Gotcha. I was always impressed by them. Yeah, played them quite a bit in 2.0, 2x10, and 2 frigates. They were always the most impressive part of the army, actually, to me.
But were you using rifles or mixed? Were you thinking,
were they
using rifles?
Mixed. That was after that.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about actually playing into double Triumph. I mean, I find that curious to kind of look and think about some lists that might be able to get some value out of that, in terms of 2 inspired, because that is, you can use an enhancement to get a second Triumph. And then if you are, 1950 and your opponent's 1990, then you'll get to use both of those inspired Triumphs. Anyway, I wonder if that might be interesting.
I mean, between the gold and the potential one baked in, they really can capitalize on it, right?
The key is getting 2 phases of shooting at the +1 wound, which is just and for me, like, I would load them in a ship with, burn my Aether Gold off of the Chemist from the special ability from the Be'lakor Broken Realms, which then let me buff them turn 1, hero phase move, dump them out of the ship 6 inches out. So now I set up 9 inches out in the hero phase. I deploy them 6 inches out. So they're 3 inches off your line.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have 10 of these guys. You have a choice. Do you charge them?
Mm-hmm.
And they're 3 inches off your line. They're shooting 12 inches in. So suddenly that range is not that big of a deal. They're getting all their bonuses. If you come in on them, they're going to unleash hell and do a ton of damage. There's just... I I was just very surprised. I was very surprised by how well they synergize with the new rules and the opportunities available.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'll
Yeah.
say is, so Noop said, do they get the bonuses in a boat unleashing? The answer is no, they don't. They get basically none of their abilities when they're in the garrison. But as Tom pointed out, either in Barak Ziflin or with the new silly Alpha Beast rules, it actually becomes very easy to dump these guys and still have the full mobility on your boat without issue, because you can fly high and take basically these moves or whatever you need to do.
Right.
Either as a pregame or in the hero phase or whatever. So you can actually dump them out super easy. And as Tom just said, when you dump them, they're not obligated to be 9 inches away. They can.
When you disembark now, when you leave a garrison, you set up the unit fully within 6 inches
Right.
of the big ship bases. So suddenly, like, they're setting out pretty far. And when I would do that, I would not only dump them, I'd drop a chemist with them. I would often do like a V, and I put the chemist at the top, and then I would put the two fumigators onto the side. And so if you came into them, you're at a -2 to hit.
Sure.
Yeah. 3-inch reach for the neg one from the chemist.
Yes, and then
range.
3-inch reach on models, and then 3-inch reach on each of the fumigators. And so the bulk of your army, if you come straight in, is -2. Obviously, it caps at -1, but it's going to fight any all-out offense that you have, and they're going to unleash. And so, like, it adds up, and it ends up, and they're 4-up base save if you come in on them. I can all out defense in the combat phase and move them to 3-ups, and suddenly, like, 20 wounds on a 3-up save, not too bad for 10 models.
Were you doing hunters with them, or have you tried that?
I was doing hunters with them in my Barak Thringy list, and it was
yeah,
it was great. Yeah,
perfect unit for that. Yeah, to get that 3-up or whatever. Yeah, nice.
Right on. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's good.
All of their things got way better because of and that's really what this is, like, units that just improved, not because they changed the scroll, but because the ground underneath them shifted, right? And these are such a great
the
example
larger
of that.
3.0 frameworks
Right.
changed, and because those changed, how it interfaces with the scroll itself creates a hidden opportunity.
Yeah, and I agree. And these guys are such a great example. They got way better. By the way, I think you're crazy. I think they're completely worth 270 points. You're out of your freaking mind. I think that is a
We'd take him at 250.
You're out of your stupid mind. That is more than fair for what you get out of these guys. Okay. Next up, Tyler, one of your picks, the Curseling.
Yeah.
The Curseling. Now, this guy's a little wombo combo enabler. So take us through our little friend, the Curseling.
Mm-hmm. Good buddy to Kairos. We'll talk
He
about,
is one of Kairos' best friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Zinch players, if there's any Zinch players in the chat, I was looking around at lists, and I couldn't find that many lists that were using him. Maybe I'm just missing some lists that have been doing really well with this guy. Saw a lot of the Oigroid Thaumaturge, who's another one that's got turned on a little bit more with 3.0. So let me know if this guy isn't as much of a hidden gem as I think he might be.
One of Vince's opponents, our buddy Dan, runs the Curseling in his little Zinch castle.
Nice. Well, shouts to my friend Cody. He was the one who turned me on to him a while back. So, yeah, he is 185 points, 5 wounds, 4-up saves, a little bit better than your average save for Zinch. He's got the Mortal Arcanite keywords, which is important for getting access to Shield of Fate, one of the best spells in that book. You know, if you don't have like Archeon, who's running around with Shield of Fate, you might be running this guy or the Thaumaturge to have Shield of Fate, because it's in the mortal side for the spell lore.
Yep.
Let's start with maybe the best thing in terms of Kairos. Glean Magic is his spell. So Glean Magic has
the key with Kairos, by the way, is that Kairos steals the spells. Not steals, but he has access to the spells of all the other people around him. So by bringing this guy in with Glean Magic, you've just given Kairos Glean Magic. So, okay, please continue.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. If successfully cast, pick one enemy wizard within 24 inches. I mean, that's a big, normally Zinch are looking at 18 inches for everything. 24 inches of the cast are invisible to them. Pick one spell from that wizard's war scroll that is possible for this model to cast, and roll a dice. On a 3+, the caster knows that spell for the entire rest of the battle. That could be incredible. Some good spells are keyword limited, like Teclis's Technado, I think that may be limited. Actually, I don't know if that one is or not. But some of the really
So
powerful
you're saying the
spells.
aftersave?
No,
Yeah,
the protection is limited. The Technado is not. The point is,
Technado
there's
is
a
not.
lot of
Sorry.
like damaging spells and stuff like that
Yeah, I
that
wouldn't
are.
mind like Croak's Celestial Deliverance or whatever. That'd be a pretty good one to steal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Elithor and Eliana's, they're 5-up ward save, self ward save. I'm sure Kairos would like that. Sit on that, or no, just to take it away. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a number, yeah, of great ones. And
oh, the
then,
caster. Sorry, yeah. So no, Kairos would steal those things.
yep, yeah.
what's that?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would work.
Go ahead.
Yes, there's a lot of good
Yeah.
things to steal.
Yeah. He's got 2 spells that he can cast and 2 unbinds, which is important because Vessel of Chaos. If this model successfully unbinds a spell that is possible for it to cast, it can immediately attempt to cast that spell even though it is the enemy hero phase. If that spell is successfully cast, it cannot be unbound. So Host Arcanum, one of the favorites of Tzeentch players around the world, has the wonderful synergy of auto unbinding in rounds 1, 3, and 5.
Yes,
So
indeed.
you simply have, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. You just pick the curseling and go, he will be my auto dispel.
Yep,
And I will
there
be
you
throwing
go.
that back in your face.
Yep. Yeah, and he's got 2 unbinds. And for good measure, he can reroll unbinds and dispels for the model. Obviously, you've got Destiny dice as well. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Like, he's 185 points, gives you access to Shield of Fate. This guy seems pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, I exactly 140, right? I didn't write his points down. I'm sorry.
I think 185.
Oh, 185. Okay, yeah, sorry. Still worth it. Again, he's a pretty well costed double caster with just as you said, he's got a lot of synergy in with the other pieces, like how he works with Kairos, how he works with Host Arcanum. I would point out that this dude on his own does also have built-in rerolls on both unbinding and dispelling, like built into his scroll. Like so, just having built-in rerolls to unbinding and dispelling when you're not using the auto ones is still quite good. Yet another thing they decided it was too powerful for Slanesh to have, so I understand we got to take that away. We got to give it over, but the Curseling can still have it. I'm not bitter. And Artorias Rex said, amazingly, protection of Teclis is not keyworded to Lumineth or anything.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
Caleb, he does maybe, yeah, 180 points, 185. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Man, that's not cheap, but still. Yeah, he just
Pretty
seems like he's
good.
got some real utility. Yeah, with in particular Kairos Host Arcanum. But
yep. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know more about Tzeentch than I do, obviously.
But yes, he's got potential. Yes, the limitation of being 5 wounds on a 4-up is of course his downside. But honestly, in Tzeentch, there's usually a lot of heavy targets people are trying to take
Yeah.
out. I'm not sure this guy comes to the top of the list. So
Not really a priority when you're looking at the rest of the stuff that you're staring down.
right,
Sure.
right, yeah. So yeah, he's cool. I like him. I do agree. I think he's a hidden gem. Might not go in every list, but you know, he could find a place in some. Okay, mine next, the Soul Feaster. That's right. I'm fully on this train. Here we go. Now it's time to talk about the Soul Feaster. We're gonna bring back the Keeper of Secrets one way or another. I'm gonna hammer that model back onto the battlefield.
I thought about adding this to the list of fine, but I just like it's a waste of time because this is your first choice.
Of course, this is
It's
one
an-
of the
it's an
first things
honor.
I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The Soul Feaster is kitted as per the good Keeper of Secrets. That is to say, like, it doesn't have the choice, but who cares? You always want the Sinestrous hand anyways, because that's what enables the healing. Beyond that, it's just literally a Keeper of Secrets. Except the normal Keeper of Secrets has 5 levels on the wound chart on the damage table. The Soul Feaster only has 4, and that change happens at the lowest level. So whereas the normal Keeper starts to lose sword attacks and her claws go down when she's more than 3 wounds on, the Soul Feaster has to take more than 6. And remember, this is a model that can heal quite effectively. So, like, between having the Sinestra's Hand, so you're healing a D3 every combat phase, Heroic Recovery, so you can heal a D3 every hero phase, and potentially 2 different spells that heal either a D3 or a D6. You can actually just shove tons of healing onto this model. So, like, if they don't wipe it, you can bring it back up pretty fast. Now, still has Dark Temptations, great ability. Still has Delicate Precision, which is the mortal wounds on the wound roll of 6. Has the Sinestra's Hand, as I mentioned. But most importantly, what she has is she has the Soul Feaster Tendrils. So at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero within 3 inches of this model and roll 3d6. 3d6, not 2d6. Very important difference. If the roll is greater than that model's bravery, you gain D3 depravity points, and 1 is subtracted from hit rolls for attacks made by that hero. D3 depravity points is a lot of depravity points to gain off of a single ability every combat phase, by the way. Not the start of your combat phase, the combat phase. So it's an extra average of 4 depravity per battle round. That's quite a lot of depravity. So that means you're ramping to summoning more stuff faster. Which is awesome. Her spell still sucks because we're still paying the wages of sin for the power of Cacophonic Choir in 8th edition. It's been 7 years since that spell was any good. When do we get to have a good spell again? I don't know. But anyways, Cacophonic Choir spell has a casting value of 6 and a range of 6 inches. If successfully cast, roll 2d6. Each enemy unit within range that has a bravery characteristic less than the roll suffers D3 mortal wounds. Yeah, it's straight awful.
That's in the running for number 1 on the list of crap spells when it's got
terrible.
that set up.
It's terrible because just like the number of bravery 8, 9, 10 things in the game is outrageous. And so okay, whatever. I don't need to explain why that spell is bad. It's bad. In 8th edition and 7th edition, it was so grotesquely bad that we have a long time to spend in purgatory to make up for our sins of Caco bombing people. The original sort of Technado or whatever you want to call it was the Caco bomb. Anyways, and she's only 385 points. She's 35 points cheaper than the normal Keeper of Secrets. She does not have the command ability. Who cares? I'm going to summon keepers, and I'm going to summon keepers faster because of her, and those keepers will show up with the command ability. I just need 1 walking around with it since I can't multi-use it anymore. 35 points in Slaanesh is not nothing. That army is vastly overcosted, and so any amount of points you can save is good. So there you go. I think she is an absolute treasure. So there you go. So there's the Soul Feaster.
Yeah, Paperboy Jay, we talked about this on the last show. That's, as I understand it, Vince can correct me, but that's his argument for this one over the Keeper in the list, is that you can simply summon it and get that wombo combo that Evan was discussing in his appearance on AoS Coach, where, you look to double activate something significant like Sigvald or Glutos he was talking about.
Just rely on the summon. Like, you can get there. Right? You're gonna get a Keeper of Secrets. You will get that amount of depravity out of this army, right? So like you can get there. So I'd rather save the points in the initial one and then just summon in full-fledged keepers from there. That's the answer. So there you go. Yes, I am aware that Evan got 4th place, by the way, and I listened to that whole show. That's good on him. Okay.
I missed it. Does he have to be in combat, or is it just in the combat phase, regardless of whether he's in combat or not? He can do the D3 depravity.
It's you have to. A hero has to be within 3 inches of him, so you got to be in combat. Yep. But it's not that hard to get this thing into combat with a 14-inch move and so on and so forth. So. All right, next up, Tom, one of yours, which might lead to a slightly larger conversation, but Reichnor. And you had mentioned you had thrown a couple things at me, but I think Reichnor is the actual good hidden gem here. The Grim
Okay,
Hailer.
That's fair. So what I'll say is this: like Reichnor was always good. Like he was a great tech piece. He was great for getting those casts off with the +2 to save, or the +2 to cast. Like if you needed the cogs early on or whatever, you could burn a candle and you could do the thing or +3 cast. But with him, with the new Reichnor's Condemned subfaction, it makes him always count as a general. So that's the first thing. And why that's significant is that he, one of the biggest deals about Nighthaunt in my mind is that the general can resummon units that can rip them out of combat.
They have a built-in teleport. They can call them to themselves, basically.
They can call other units to themselves anywhere on the battlefield, even in combat, and pull them to themselves. Yep. And reset them up around themselves. But in order to use that to its most effective, you always put it on your
Dreadblade Hero.
Your Dreadblade Hero, who's like 5 wounds and a very vulnerable hero. And the key is that now, with Reichner counting as a general as well, you can use it off of either of the units.
Right.
The teleport.
Yep.
And so you have this highly mobile guy that's flying around, or you have another guy that himself can teleport anywhere. And both of them, you can rip units to.
Yep.
Whenever you need to. And because of the change in the command point system, command points themselves are more prolific. If you know, like, depending on how you build, like, you're going to be probably fairly hero heavy. Almost all of my Nighthaunt lists I put together have been very hero heavy. And so you could have potentially, like, double Warlord. Like, that's a very possible thing. And in those phases where, like, you need command points because you know you're going to pull off a big, like, switcheroo, you burn them. And the interesting thing about Nighthaunt is you're not wasting it on all-out defense.
Sure.
Like, I know it sounds like a... Like I know it sounds like a really silly comment, but it's true. Like, when you think about how you spend command points, you're almost always calculating in, I need to all-out defense here, I need to, I need to save this here. With this army, you don't do that. You don't have to worry about all-out defense, because everybody's ethereal. And so you're going to have those extra points to move people around. In this same sub-faction, you can also basically auto-run without running. You can increase the movement of your chain rafts or your guys that you're never going to take by 6 inches. I'm not even going to say these.
They're base 6, so now we're 12.
12 move. Yeah.
12. Yep. And if you have the banner of the Fell Wind, you can increase it by another 3. Mm-hmm. So they jump up to 15.
Yeah, the key is you can't run and do that 6-inch move buff, but it doesn't matter. You're effectively getting a run and charge, like a run 6 and charge for the same low price, right? Point. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So 15-inch move chain rasp, that's pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
And especially when you have these high blocks that are going to reroll all hits and reroll ones to wound and yada yada, like that's all kind of built into what they're doing. So it's a really interesting set of, so people are asking me, like, well, what is the Nighthaunt? Like, what's the combo? Like, it is supreme mobility.
Right.
With massive bodies, with model replacement. And Reichner still has some really interesting tricks up his sleeve. Like, and people don't remember this, but his spell, when you do damage, you pick an enemy unit, not his, when you snuff a candle, sorry.
Yes.
When you snuff a candle, you do it to a model.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So, like, you can, if you're not in combat, you can snipe out a model out of a chain and cause coherency and cause them to lose half their unit.
Or kill relevant things, like, for example, the Wizard and Illumineth unit, because that's their unit champion, is who becomes the Wizard.
Right.
So you can just be like, zap, that guy is dead, and, like, screw your ability to power of ice yourself.
You have the range in front of you of that?
Oh, yeah, I do. It is 12 inches. Yep. And he is a 14-inch, and he's a 14-inch move.
That's a really good range.
Yeah, and so, like, now it's a hero phase, so you will have had to have moved in the prior,
sure,
and then use it in your
or
hero
they
phase
walked
cast,
near you because they
walk near you, or yeah, but it's a really interesting. I think there's a lot of really interesting tech that's real subtle within Nighthaunt, and I think Reichner captures a lot of those really interesting things in his War Scroll.
Agreed. Yeah, I think him and his Condemned, like the larger Reichnorian brigade, as it were, right? Him and the sub-faction that he's included in, I think both have an incredible amount of potential to enable this, like, super high mobility Nighthaunt that just becomes very hard to contain. As has been pointed out by the way, Smorgan's in the chat. What's up, Smorgan? Hope you're doing well. And he said it's the age of mega death gargants. I would point out that they do have the Nighthawk can take the Gatebreaker death gargant.
Yeah.
He's the merc for death. And suddenly they can have somebody who can benefit from all-out defense, I would point out. So you actually can have that dude. And it gives you a giant 35 wound monster that has 10 neg 3 rend attacks.
And projects a neg 1 to hit bubble.
And yes, and gives off neg 1 to hit. Yep, because he's the death mercenary has the neg 1 to hit because he's got stinky breath. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Yep. I did a bunch of lists with that Death Giant, trying to make them work, and ended up just going straight Night Haunt. But I wanted to do a Death Giant originally because he paints the best in Death, because you can just paint him ghostly and then have his hood be the normal ghost hood of your normal ghosts.
Sure.
The normal like.
Yeah, he's got the look.
He's got the sheet ghost. Mm-hmm. The sheet ghost is just his hood.
Yeah.
You paint that the same, and then everything else is glowy.
Sure.
Because of course it is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with this pick. I like it. All right, next up, Tyler, one of yours. Hammerers.
Yeah.
I had to look this up to make sure I had the right unit, but
I have 20 of these guys converted, so I want to hear more.
We're all fascinated, Tyler. Here we go.
All right, I will do my best. This is because my friend Alan has been running 20 at me over the last couple of weeks. So I had to stand this a little bit. Again, I'm not familiar, forgive me, Citizen of Sigmar players, if this is very well-known tech. Apparently my co-hosts are not that familiar with it. I was shocked.
I don't run dwarves. Continue.
Sure, yeah. I was shocked by the amount of buffs that you can put on 20, or I would gather 30 hammers. I don't know if they can be battle line, but let's just go with 20 for now. 25 millimeter bases, so it's easy to double rank them. If you got 20, a lot of the times you're going to get all of them in, even though they only have a 1-inch reach.
Yep.
You can, so here's a few of it's all about the buffs that you can stack on these guys.
Yes.
Right.
So you can do, of course, the Rune Lord Prayer that we all know and love, the add 1 to Rends. All right, so now they're at Rend 2.
Yep.
So this is kind of like the melee equivalent here of Iron Drakes is what we're going to be laying out.
Yep.
Okay. You can do the Warning King command ability for +1 attack. Now they're at 3 attacks. Potentially, if you've got a Luminarch with, I think it's like some Aura of Glory or something, cast on a 7 that can give you a +1 attack as well. You could even get them up to 4 attacks total.
That's from Tempest Eye, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what, that makes sense. So they could be potentially, definitely 61 attacks, maybe 81 attacks. -2 Rends. All right. Probably all-out attack. Maybe you put them in Hunters so they cannot get roared at. So you take their 3s to at least 2s and 3s. Have a unit of Longbeards. That's going to be pretty common in a lot of lists. Little
just grumbling around.
Nearby. Just grumbling at him, yeah. For the real ones to wound. So now they're pretty reliably going to be at 2s, 3s, rerolling 1s, -2 rend, 1 damage on at least 61 attacks, if not 81 attacks. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that adds up, like in the amount of damage that can put out. It's pretty wild. You can also artifact, command trait for reroll charges and +1 to charge as well. From the Warden King. I mean, there's a number of, you could get a buff from the Hurricanum, number of other buffs you could potentially get. But point being, like, I was shocked at how much damage, just a few buffs, what these guys could do when all of them get in.
Can I make a brief comment? Sure. That actually helps you, Tyler. That Warden King +1 attacks. I was curious, given the Vampire Lord similar ability, how it stacks up. What's fascinating about the Warden King is that he chooses an enemy unit, and then dispossessed attacking that enemy unit all get +1 attack.
Right.
And so from the giving and receiving commands perspective, multiple units can get that +1 attack because no one is receiving those commands. Exactly. So you can get that +1 attack and still all-out attack for +1 to hit.
Or as has been pointed out in chat, certainly you have things like Hurricanums as well around that can give +1 to hit.
Right.
I would also point out that they very easily are immune to battle shock, which is quite nice because again,
Yeah.
anything that's just sort of natively immune to battle shock in a world where battle shock immunity is limited to 1 per phase is pretty nice.
Yep.
They do have an ability to deal mortal wounds on their hits, which is good.
Yes, that's I forgot about that. Yeah, on wounds. It's on
On
wounds.
it's on 6s to
Yeah.
wound, but it is in
Yeah.
addition.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
It's not. Then
Yeah.
then it stops. It's in addition. So like if you let's take your
That
61
those
attacks
neg 2
example.
rend attacks, yes, are still
Right.
on 3.
Right. So like exactly in those 61 attacks, you're getting like 10 mortal wounds for free.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Out of that unit.
The math on, again, pretty easy to make happen. Like we're not doing a Luminarch, we're not doing anything too crazy. Get him to 3 attacks, 2s, 3s, rerolling 1s. Against a 3-up save, all of that is about 37 damage. Which, not
That's a
too bad.
10-man unit.
That's a 20-man unit.
A 20-man.
Or how much is a 20-man unit? 20-man unit is 290. Or 20 wins.
Yeah, I wonder if the right answer here though isn't tenors.
Mm.
Do you just the other thing I pointed out here is there's another fundamental thing
Yeah.
that's shifted underneath them, which is they're relatively slow, right? It's a 4-inch movement.
Right.
But as has been pointed out, like the Gotrek is also on a 4-inch movement, and that little dipwad seems to get around the battlefield fast enough.
Sure.
So like redeploy as a thing existing, it helps units like this really move, right? Because it's especially a unit of 20 that's going to have a relatively decent sized footprint. It's actually pretty easy for the enemy to just sort of have nowhere else to go but ending 9 away from this unit in some way, and then all of a sudden they're a d6 extra forward, right?
Yeah.
I would also point out that they do have
It's why Gotrek's so scary.
Sure. I would also point out that they do have the like many Cities of Sigmar units. They have one of the they have all the good musicians because their musician has built-in +1 to run and charge, and built-in +1 to charge on your scroll is just so unbelievably good. Like it's such a minor bonus, but the fact that it just exists on the stupid musician is in so many cities units is hilarious to me.
And they're getting it from Tempest Eye too.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
They'll be +2 to run and +1 to charge in Tempest Eye. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it's as obvious or maybe as strong of a case as some of these others that I've picked, or maybe some of the others in general that we discussed tonight. But I had no idea hammerers, you could actually make them scary enough to potentially one-shot a mega. Like if the mega doesn't have the full-on complement of +3, finest, etc.
Right.
I mean, 37 damage with pretty easy to achieve conditions. I was impressed by that.
Yeah.
It's not too bad in terms of cost, 290. Yeah.
No, I like it. It's solid. It's a good pick.
Definitely
these guys,
benefit from more buffs, like -1. You can, again, it's city, so
you
can do all
can
kinds of
go
crazy
wild
things.
if you want, but yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
you can -1 to hit with Luminarch to make them more survivable. Yeah, it's all kinds of things you can potentially do.
Yeah, there becomes a point of diminishing returns, but like where
Sure.
it's just better off to have a limited number of buffs and more units, like 2 units of hammer, so you can missile 2 of them forward or something like that. So because you kind of super buff one and then get them forward and get them fighting, and then they eventually die, and then in comes the second unit to mop up, right? That kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. My pick, Stomper Tribe. That's right. I know. Listen,
Go on.
audience. I know that everybody's playing takers and breakers. I know that. You know that. We've seen the tournament results. We know where this goes. But I think Stomper Tribe is good. And here's why I like it. Okay? So, Stomper Tribe. First of all, it has a pretty large damage bonus for baby giants. +1 to damage for your babies when they fight units of 10 or more. +2 when they fight units of 20 or more. Now, there aren't a huge number of units of 20 or more that still hang out in the game. They're around. They exist. But there's plenty of units of 10 or more. Plenty of units of 10 or more. Despite the MSU world that everybody says we live in, most games I look at still have units of 10 floating around. Okay?
Vince, I literally went through 2 days ago. I went through the 25 factions, and I think I got up to like 17 out of 25 reliably will have 10 units of 10.
Right. Absolutely. That it's almost essential, right? Just because the nature of their battle line choices or whatever, right? And it's incredible what even +1 damage does to babies, to baby giants, because keep in mind they make 10 club attacks on 3s and 3s neg 1 damage, turning those to 10 club attacks each. So 3 babies make 30 club attacks. Turning those to 3s 3s neg 2 damage is such an insane, it doubles it. I mean, duh. But like it's such an insane damage spike, right? Math. The math is pretty straightforward on this one. Okay. Second thing I like about Stomper Tribe, they still have reroll 1s to hit in an aura. So off of the Stomper General, he still has an aura ability he can turn on that does not count as those units receiving a command. It's just you have to be within the range, which is a big bubble off of him. And everybody gets reroll 1s to hit in the combat phase. Okay. By the way, you don't need to run a ton of babies in Stomper to make this worth it. You can have 1 unit of babies in Stomper Tribe. Like, you could run 3 megas, 3 babies in a unit, and this is still totally worth it. Okay? Because what's even better than 3s, neg 2 damage or 3 damage is rerolling 1s to hit as well. It's a huge difference in what it means to their overall damage potential. Again, so it's just bumps, right? And then finally, Stomper Tribe has a command trait that I think is something that people have slept on. I use it all the time, and it's so incredible what it enables. There's a command ability a command trait called Eager for the Fight. And Eager for the Fight says you can attempt to charge with this general if it's within 18 inches of the enemy instead of 12, and you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6 when making a charge roll.
Yeah.
Now, I love this for multiple reasons. The Stomper General doesn't get access to the normal command abilities. Like, there's certain command abilities he can't use, so you need at least one other mega in there to be running around to give access to the normal command abilities. Like, to all-out attack and all-out defense and stuff like that. He has his own personal command abilities. But what that means, because he doesn't have access to reroll charge, is that you can fail charges with him. Because you can roll a 2 and be like, okay, well, I don't get there, right? Once you move it to 3 dice, a 3-inch charge becomes impossible because it's 3 1s. You still get in. But obviously the broader level is that this guy's charge becomes outrageous because on average he charges 10 inches. Right? That's just the straight math of that. And you will sometimes get these crazy explosive charges where he'll just go 14 or 15 or 16 inches or something nuts, right? And you'll be like, whoa! All of a sudden, we're like, I got my options just opened way up.
Right.
Right? Because suddenly I can shoot this guy.
Screen.
Yes, like I can just shoot this guy all the way around, right?
Yeah.
Remember, you can't long shanks in the charge, but if you've got enough movement, you can just walk all the way around something, right?
Right.
So I love Eager for the Fight. I think it's such a powerful command trait. It can also enable weird things, like you could suddenly catch the fox if someone's foolish enough to try to play games with you, right? Because you can't, like, he floated to 15 inches and you happen to roll a 15, like, you're going to get that dude. Like, it's just one of those things. Now, it's weird. Somebody playing a fox should logically never move that close to you, then. They should always be sitting at their max 18-inch line or something like that and then floating farther away. But it still hedges them and where they have to be, right? Like, there's still power to that because now you're pushing them way back into where they can occupy in the board, right?
Yep.
Yes, that is true. The bonus damage is also for the rocks that the babies throw, which is absolutely true. The bonus damage against the units of 10 or 20 isn't just in melee, it's also for rock throwing. I just do not count rock throwing as worth anything, but sure.
It's not a real thing.
Like, rock throwing will sometimes do damage and it's fun, but I never, like, it's not part of my battle plan, as it were. It's a fun side benefit you get to do sometimes. But yes, it does work, so it's cool. So I think Stomper Tribe is underrated. I think that a lot of people look at the Stompa and say that he is the worst of the giants, and I don't disagree with that, but it doesn't matter. You can take one of each and 3 babies, and that fits in the list. Like, my traditional build is like Stomper, Taker, Breaker, 3 babies, just literally running like the army list down, just it's just what's in the sheet.
I think that's what Steve Curtis ran with his 5.0 over the last weekend. I've got it here. Let's see. Yeah, Kraken, Breaker, Stompa, 3x1 smalls. Yeah,
Yeah,
three
sure.
units of single smalls.
Oh, yeah,
What
I like 3 in a unit, but sure, you can do that. Yeah.
unit? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, he was in Taker, of course, but
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. But the point is that uh like I think that Stompa has a lot of unique things going on. I didn't mention the Cestus. He does that. This guy does still have access to a reroll all saves artifact that also kicks
Uh,
back mortals, mortals that cannot be negated anymore because of the FAQ ruling. So that's pretty good. And you can obviously now also still put your megas into your new boss battalion and get the bonus magic item. So you can do like this. You can do the eager for the fight and the Cestus on this guy, and then still give your breaker the amulet of destiny, or something like that, right? So you mean because of the battalion capability that we just suddenly got opened up, it also means that you can still get the generic second magic item you want. I would also point out, lastly, the Stomper has Hurled Body, which is an ability to roll a die, and if you roll greater than your wounds characteristic, you instantly kill a model. You slay them. No save. That is not tied to their pile-in. It is just during the combat phase you can do this. So even if it's not your turn to activate, you can just be like, "Are we done with start of combat abilities? Okay, I kill that model." All right. So which is pretty cool. So there's a lot here, is my point. And yeah, I support this guy. So there you go. He's also the cheapest, by the by. He's only $470.
That 3d6 is a good shout. Yeah, anytime that exists, I'm always terrified. Like I play Coalesce Seraphon, and that was the game-winning ability, whatever it was, spell,
Yeah, sure.
whatever it was. Like that came up
Yep,
multiple rounds.
they have it as well.
Where, yeah, it was because it was just changing the sequencing, the pace of the game. That one thing.
It's crazy how much more reliable and long distance it makes your charges. Like, sure, sometimes you'll only roll like a 6, and it's like, oh, okay, well, fine.
Sure.
I get like what would be a normal average charge. But a lot of times you won't.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah,
there you go.
That's a good one. I really like that one.
Yeah, I think Stompa's underrated. So there you go. That's my pick. Faction perks, and what I've got specifically written here is about Lofnir. Lofnir?
Oh, yeah.
Lofnir?
Yeah. Lofnir.
Lofnir.
Originally, I had framed this conversation around generic perks, but I think Lofnir is a perfect example of this.
Right.
Is that any sub-faction that is giving free bennies,
Like enhancements, especially. Yeah.
enhancements, are suddenly like have increased stock now.
Yeah.
Because those things are harder to get at. Before, you're just not getting free mount traits, or you're not getting free items or whatever with every battalion that you take.
Right.
And so now, like, looking at like Grimfeared, that lodge gives 2 free items. That's pretty good.
Right.
Here in Lofnir, every Magmadroth you have gets a mount trait.
Right.
You have four Magmadroths, you get 4 mount traits. Now they can't be the same anymore. You used to be able to have them be the same in the Fireslayer book, but with the new FAQ, they specifically said that you can never duplicate.
Right.
But it's still like you take, let's say you do 2 Rune Sons and a Rune Father. Awesome. Everybody gets their own traits. You do a reroll 1 to save, you do a reduce run by 1, you do a damage on the charge. Pretty good. Pretty good. And so my point was that I think that any of the sub-factions that are out there that are giving these free enhancements need to be re-looked at. And Lofnir is just one of those.
Sure.
As well, like, for us, what's relevant is that the command ability lets you fire off, give +1 to hit and wound to one of your units. And I love that because basically it's all-out attack, another all-out attack in the shooting phase.
Right.
And
Right.
and it's pick an enemy unit, so it's any
Yes.
of your units shooting at that enemy, or
Yes.
shooting or attacking that enemy
Right,
unit.
and so
Yeah.
it's again the same thing of like doing I'm going to pick that unit, Anybody shooting it is going to get the bonus.
But they didn't receive a command.
But they didn't receive a command, so they can still all-out attack.
Right.
And so there's just some really interesting kind of interactions that are here. Yeah. So
You recall
I just like
Orc Hearthguard. Are we 4s and 3s or 3s and 3s base? Orc Hearthguard
4s and
for
3s.
shooters. 4s and 3s. Okay.
4s and 3s.
So you can't get
4s and
better than
3s neg
3,
1/1. 4s and 3s neg 1/1. If you're shooting a monster, it does base 2 damage and has a chance and it has a chance to have movement.
Yeah, that's
so
what
10
I love. The fact that it's buffing
yeah.
the Magma Pike, right, for the Hearthguard.
Yeah.
Which are like, I mean, hey, guess what? A lot of people take monsters in this edition, and this is a real good command ability for messing up monsters, and they're real good at that already.
And you're very realistically going to put those 10 Oryx in a like tunneled, like that's the way that you would deploy them.
Sure.
You're going to tunnel them. Like every list that I've built, in general, the default I'm going to tunnel is the 10 Oryx, so that I can put them anywhere I want on the battlefield. They're going to pop up and shoot. And they're going to have a hero there to do the command ability, because he's popping up with them.
Right.
And, yeah, it's just, and so, like, you can pick a monster and either do the damage you need to do, or cut their movement, and possibly cut their movement in half.
Yep.
It's pretty good in a monster-heavy edition.
Absolutely. I agree. I think this is strong because I think, as we talked about earlier, this also plays into the person we like, Lofnir being like sort of the Magmadroth one. We talked about the Rune Father on Magmadroth, right? It's so like it's piling together there to what I think are some pretty good hidden gem combinations. All right, this is my last.
Sorry, last thing, Vince. So we're at 3s and 2s. Tom, can we get anything better than that reliably?
Yeah. So you fire off your runes.
Can we get?
Yeah, you fire off your magma runes, and you can increase. I'm pretty sure you can increase. You have a reroll 1s to hit rune. You have a increased rend by 1. Now the increased rend by 1, I believe, is only melee. I'd have to double check. I've never done shooting heavy enough to have that actually matter.
Sure.
But
that's a good starting point though. 3s and 2s, -1, 2 damage.
But they have they have some toys. Yeah, the question is could you get to 2 deep striking units of 10? And it would be a little bit more difficult if you're going heavy. If you're going heavy magma. So the runes, 1 can trigger mortals on 6s to wound. 1 can reroll hits of 1, just in general. So you can get reroll 1s to hit, and melee weapons are rend 1. Yeah.
Okay.
So
reroll 1s. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
On demand. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the last one here. This is the last slide. And I just have written cogs.
Oh.
Question mark.
I'm up.
Charge bonus.
Tyler, defend yourself.
I'll let Tyler defend this one. This was Tyler's pick. Cogs, one of the most popular choices of all of 3.0. Now, it did just get heavily nerfed, but Tyler's bringing it back already as a hidden gem.
Side that
5 days later. Okay, hit
me. Everybody seems to have forgotten the other side of COG, the speed up time side.
Defend yourself, Tyler. Walk us through the wombo combo.
All right. So any army, I mean, this isn't new, but I just feel like as a community, we have forgotten how amazing even +1 to charge. I mean, Tom has always talked about just roll 9s. Well, look, legitimately just roll 9s. 8s. Just roll 8s. And you can win games with +1 to charge.
8s are better than 9s. It's true.
8s are better than 9s. So a speed up time. It gets +1 to charge, wholly within 18. Right. Lots of armies, of course, have teleporting, where you're looking for 9s on the charge. Sylvaneth, Daughters of Cain, Nighthaunt, Stormcast, etc. Tons of armies. Okay. I had this in a Daughters of Cain army. I mentioned this on the show a couple of times, but it's a simple combo that had a big impact on a number of games over 2 tournaments. I have not heard anybody talking about this in the Daughters of Cain community, so thought it'd be good to point out. You can obviously buff up the Shadow Queen, make her terrifying. You've got 3 spell cast with Wrathy Cane. So you've got Mirror Dance, which you'll probably have on a Medusa. Maybe the Medusa's got the +1 to cast to turn that Mirror Dance, the teleport spell. You can teleport 2 heroes, put them anywhere on the board. Maybe you've got that going on a normal 6 or a 5, maybe a 4 with Arcane in range. Okay, I mean, it can be pretty reliable to go off with Mirror Dance. And you can absolutely have the Medusa outside of Unbind range unless you're going against Seraphon or whatever. Usually that can be out of Unbind range. Just backboard it. Okay, so she will teleport through Mirror Dance. You can also do this with Celebron, command ability, incidentally. Just do the normal thing with Celebron and trigger with this. Teleport Little Marathi and Big Marathi. So teleport Little Marathi, maybe a little bit more board, but still potentially keep her out of Unbind range to get a little bit more range of cogs. And just like turning that 9 into an 8 with the reroll 1's charge, or the built-in, particularly with Hagnar, where you can get that in round 1 on Daughters of Cain. Now making the buffed up Shadow Queen like an instant serious threat rather than just trying to roll 9s. Like, that was game changing in a number of games immediately. Allowed me to, do pile-in tricks around and wipe out half a unit of Evocators one game. Like, a lot of players are doing that with the Shadow Queen. They'll throw up and, maybe I'll roll the 9, maybe I won't. But now it makes it really reliable. Anyway, same thing with
more
Sylvaneth.
reliable, yeah.
Or a lot more reliable, yeah. Or you just re-roll the entire charge with the CP. So, this isn't rocket science. I just feel like we're not talking about the +1 to charge enough on cogs and how valuable I think that is from simply moving from 9s to 8s, particularly if you got a way to reroll 1 specifically, or if you're just rerolling in general. I mean, even Sylvaneth, like there could be instances where it may be worth, I mean, this might sound crazy, it might be crazy, it may be worth not taking the +3 to charge from Spiteswarm Hive and instead taking the +1 to save, do crazy save stacking, then have the potential to go in with like a +3, +4 save on a pinning Durthu or Ancient or Tree Lord against something you need to pin, a couple things you need to pin in place. And then you're looking for that 8 on, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't, but it's not. So I just think that there's, a number of armies.
Statistically, it is quite a percentage shift between your ability to get like 2 rolls and an 8 is very different than 2 rolls and a 9. Yes.
It's enormous.
That's true. It's true.
I did this at NashCon one year, and like that's it. Warsinger, old school Sylvaneth. That's what it was all about. It's, I don't think. I
don't hate cogs.
I find it weird that I never hear anybody talk about speeding up time and how significant I think that can be for so many armies. That simple +1 to charge.
Sure.
With the reroll.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between, it's anchor pricing got in the way on this one. Right. Because it had this other ability that was so outsizedly good, and has now been brought back.
Actually, looking at the +1 charge.
Yeah, from the stratosphere. Like there was no reason you would, if you were taking it, you were using it for the broken part of it, not for the sane part of it. That was just a good buff, right? But you're right. You're absolutely right. Like +1 to charge is a big deal.
Iron Jaws, now you don't have to take blood tubes. I mean, who the hell knows with the new book? Iron Jaws, if they maintain the +1 charge across the entire army and you do cogs, now you're at 7s.
Right.
And it's just, I think it's very simple and subtle. It's not rocket science. It's something that a lot of people use to run all the time. But you're right, Vince. It kind of has been lost.
No, I mean, +1 to charge is a huge deal. Anybody who's ever played Iron Jaws knows, because they have a built-in +1 to charge, how important it is. Like, it's incredible the way it shifts.
You don't fail 3-inch charge.
Right, you don't fail 3-inch charges, and you tend to be able to get there. Right, it just makes a big difference.
Oh, interestingly, I believe the math in the core rules still works this way. All multiplication.
Yeah, happens before addition.
And division, division happens before addition. And so what that means is that, all those corn players who are bragging about having all your charges, your Barack Moore people who are like, I'm going to Aether Stab and have their charge rolls and all that. Yeah, these bonuses to charge occur after those are halved. And so they actually move your numbers like astronomically. So bonuses, period, are the answer to having.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. Because they don't get halved is effectively the math there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you think about how much the Khorne Demon Prince, okay, there's a 5-inch charge, right? That's what it would
Yeah.
be normally. The Khorne Demon Princes fired off their ability. Now it's a 10-inch charge. Okay, my God, it's like impossible, right? Or because you've got to.
Right.
But in this case, you suddenly, instead of needing the 10, you only need the 8 because you're gonna. If you roll an 8, you have it to 4. Then the +1 applies. Now you hit the 5. You're back in.
Right.
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 So it can like
bonuses
it moves in
are a
math
really
in
big deal.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Makes me want to revisit a melee-based Tempest Eye, just because of some of those bonuses.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it could be crazy. I just think like it's a gulf between 9s and 8s to me with a reroll.
It's a huge difference. Yes, it is. It's I don't have the percentage off the top of my head on the math, but it's probably about a 20% difference.
Yeah.
It's big. All right. Cool. There we go. That's all our hidden gems. What are yours? If we didn't mention yours, put them down there in the comments. Drop your hidden gems below. Tom, welcome back. Well, I don't know who's gonna what our schedule is gonna be going forward. We'll figure it out. Tyler's still gonna be around. I'm not letting him go. He's accidentally fallen into this. Just so everybody knows.
He's part of the team now.
He's part of the team now. I've got to commission new art and get Tyler onto our art. Because Tyler's just part of the Warhammer Weekly crew forever now. Once you fall into the tar pit, you don't get out. So we'll figure out our schedule going forward.
Vince enslaves you forever.
Forever. Once you're in, that's it.
I kind of figured that, Tom. Yeah, that's fine.
That's right.
I'm in good company.
But Triphos, hilarious. No one of consequence, Triphos. Don't worry. But if you like this, hey, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, we appreciate it. As I said, over the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing the 2 battle tomes that are coming out. So Stormcast and Oryx, tune in for those. I don't know which one's going to be which. We'll figure it out over the course of this week, and depending on sort of how we get our leaks and that kind of thing. But at any rate, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click all those buttons. Buttons are fun. We appreciate you very much. Drop your hidden gems in the comments. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday. I have to actually hit the button. I can't hit the button.